Well, hello there. How are you? Welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. Surprisingly, as always, I am Chat Show. This is a very exciting day, and forgive the sort of last-minute nature of what you're now watching, but lots of goings on. So excited. First of all, I'm just back from Calgary, Alberta in Canada, and let me just say this. Sorry. Yeah, because that's what I heard for 72 hours. Sorry. Stop apologizing, Canada. Really. Sorry. I ordered room service. They brought it in, and then she said, sorry. No, I ordered this. Oh, yeah, sorry. It just wouldn't stop. They are adorable. They are wickedly polite. And, as an American, I just don't know what to do with that. I can process it as, what do they really want? But I had a lovely time, and they were really nice and eventually stopped apologizing once I was on stage, and that turned into sporadic laughter. So it was really a good time for me. But my highlight of the trip, actually, I have friends there, and they have a lab where they collect dinosaur bones from all over, not just a quarry that they have nearby, but some from Montana, and I'll have them on the show because it's utterly fascinating. And I took a little video. I think we have that loaded up while I was there, and it's truly astonishing. Picture me holding a T-Rex toe bone. That's like just crazy amazing. So I want to thank Terry and his family and his crew and everyone. I should have asked him how to pronounce the name of the company, because it's P-A-N-G-E-A. What would you say?
Pangea.
Pangea, yeah.
Pangea?
Pangea.
We're going to go with Pangea to block. Oh, right.
I can tell you about Pangea.
Yeah. Save it for the show. PangeaFossils.com is where you want to go to check them out. It's truly amazing. Do you guys have that video? Yeah, of course. Let's just take a look. It's a really quick, cheesy shot that I did. Look, where are we? Oh, we're inside the dinosaur's mouth. That's clever and never been done by Spielberg. But yeah, that's just one example of a dinosaur that's been fully reconstructed from pieces found, pieces unearthed. And yeah, how about shake more with the camera? Apparently I hadn't had my my morning juice. All right, that's good. Thank you. That's, hey, look at that. Go right to the next clip. Why not? But I want to thank Terry and his crew and his family, and stop. And for all the, that's a Maiasaura, or Peeblesorum. It was a duck-billed dinosaur known also as a hadrosaur that lived during the Cretaceous period. And there it was, fully assembled for my enjoyment, and then technically yours, although sorry about the camera work. Also in pieces, I mentioned the toe bone, but just being around what's eventually going to be erected like that one will be the second largest T-Rex in the world that they are now in the process of cleaning and well, everything that they do. And once it's up and ready, I think 4 to 6 months, I'm going to definitely have them on, and we're going to show all that off. Very, very excited about it. Almost as excited that Miley Cyrus apparently has quit Twitter. This is what I call hard news, people. Seriously? She made a rap video for her fans, as she says, within the rap. And Miley, big fan, lots of talent at such a young age. Do us all a favor, including yourself, no more rapping. Just stop the rap thing, because it's not really a strength. I'm going to show just a little piece of this, because someone tweeted me saying that Miley had quit Twitter, and they wondered if the Oprah, Miley, or Demi game that we introduced last week on this show was part of the reason. And that's absurd, of course, until there's a lyric here where she makes reference. She's listing a bunch of reasons why she quit Twitter. And it was really about too much sharing her life instead of living her life, which is very poetic and sweet. I'm convinced she's a 42-year-old midget. We're going to find this out eventually, but for now, she's adorable. So let's keep in mind, we introduced last week, Oprah, Miley, or Demi. Sam Levine was our host, and I played against Lisa Loeb, and I think she crushed me. Well, that's the way it should have been. And then Miley quits. Interesting? Coincidence? You be the judge. Roll it.
I ain't living for tabloids, no, I'm living for me. No more emo quotes and fake you with Demi. Yeah, I'm done with all.
Uh-huh. I don't know. What did you make of that? There's a reference there. Is she just chatting to Demi, and that's why she mentioned... let's play it one more time. That's me.
Living for tabloids, no, I'm living for me.
Thank
no
you.
more emo quotes and fake you with Demi. Yeah, I'm done with all.
And what with Demi?
And confused with Demi.
And confused with Demi is what it sounds like me.
I thought it was fake feuds.
Fake fused.
Feuds.
Oh, fake feuds.
Fake feuds.
Might be fake. Let's play it one more time.
I ain't living for tabloids, no, I'm living for me. No more emo quotes and fake you with Demi. Yeah,
Fake feuds.
I'm
I'm going to go
with
fake feuds to block people. We had a moment of excitement. Confused for Demi would in fact mean we had some sort of impact. But fake feuds, yeah, that's somebody else's game. Damn it! All right. Well, we put that to rest, and that's the reason we showed it. It took 27 weeks of doing this show. Last week was our 26th week, half a year. We're still an infant, of course, but who would have thunk? Half a year had gone by of our lives working diligently for you. But it took 27, that would be this week, before I had to bump a guest. Yeah. Now, I mention this because not only it was Brian Tyler, the film composer, originally listed on the website as our guest for this particular Sunday, but when I was alerted that today's actual guest was available, I immediately got into conversations with Brian Tyler and explained my first Tonight Show and how I was bumped, and the importance of character building and what that meant to me and the rest of my life. That brought me here now. For comedians doing on the Tonight Show, you know, Johnny Carson, everything, your whole life builds to that moment, and I had somehow wrestled the reins of my life, and when I was asked to do the show as a stand-up, I actually said no the first time to only control my destiny so that I would be first brought out right to the couch as an actor, where I would do my act as a comedian. But the couch, I really wanted to do the stuff for Johnny sitting next to him. So it eventually happened a year later. It was all set up. I was going to do the Tonight Show. And your first time, you call everyone you've ever known. I'm going to be on the Tonight Show. And that was always the drag about being bumped, because so many comedians have stories about being bumped. But you have to call the 30, 90, whatever the people on the list, you have to call them all between 5:30 and 11:30 and have the same conversation. Yeah, I'm not going to actually, I can't, no. Yes. And then you're talking them down from the clock tower with the M16. I'm the one that went through this hell, and they just feel horrible, and they can't let you off the phone. 73 of those. So when I got bumped, it was because Sammy Davis Jr., God bless and rest his soul, had done 4 songs. I say that whole God bless thing now, because at the time I wanted to pop out his other eye and skull fuck him, let's be honest. He did 4 songs. 2 songs had rarely been done. 3 songs, never. 4 songs, get the Guinness Book people on the phone. And I'm kicking the walls in the dressing room. My first time on the Tonight Show. Like a 9-year-old, I'm kicking the walls. And then, of course, he came back out, I am so sorry. You kids with the whole shakunk-kakunk. That's a quote. You kids with the whole shakunk-kakunk. That's what the great one, Sammy Davis Jr., said to me. He felt horrible, and I took pictures with him, and I forgave him. There's no reason to skull fuck. Now, so Brian Tyler will be rebooked, graciously agreed to make room for today's guest. Make room for Eddie. It's a brand new show this season on Intervision. was my oft sidekick, Sam, the man, Inglorious Bastards Levine, had a little story he wanted to share with us. I understand. Sammy?
I'll make it quick. Yeah.
What the hell?
Well, no, I'm glad I have some platform to tell the story on, because otherwise I was going to have to tweet the whole thing. So yesterday...
Thank God we stopped that from happening.
Jamie and myself and Mike, we all went to Jack's 4th show.
That's Jamie behind the camera, by the way. Not the best view of Jamie today.
No.
What happened?
No one's
She's happy. So you went to a rock and roll show, a classic
rock and roll show
Yeah.
down in Irvine.
Don't go through the list of who performed there. Suffice to say, it was a big classic rock
big show.
Right.
Big deal show. Mm-hmm. And it was stadium seating.
Sure.
And so the people sitting behind me is a group of women.
Yeah.
Around age 40.
Sure.
And they'd been drinking.
Had they?
Clearly been there a couple hours.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sitting down, and every couple seconds I get kicked in the back.
Oh, we don't care for that.
And I kind of turn around. I'm like, hey, do you guys see that I'm
Did you
sitting
give
here?
him the look the first time, or did you went right to words?
I gave the look, a polite look of, hey, I don't appreciate being kicked in the back. Do you mind?
So one look.
One look.
That's the warning shot
That's
over the
warning.
bow.
Happens at least 2 more times.
Before you finally say...
Well, no, it gets much worse, because then what happens is they're keen to the fact that I'm looking and trying to let them know, stop kicking me.
Politely.
And then finally, this one gal, the worst of the bunch, puts her feet up and starts deliberately just bang, bang, like a child on an airplane.
This
just
is a 40-year-old woman.
The back of my seat. Yeah, a 40-year-old woman.
All right.
It's just bashing the back of my seat.
Wow.
And her friends are all giggling like they can't believe she's
It's
doing
the funniest
this.
thing they've ever seen.
Yes. And so I turn around and I say, I'm really sorry, would you mind not doing that? And then she just very rudely you can turn around, you don't have to pay attention to us. Well, clearly I do, because you're kicking the back of my chair, I have to pay attention to you.
Right.
And she very rudely just telling me to turn around. I say, I'm being polite to you, why? And then she says, fuck you, turn around.
Holy, what the?
Gives me one of those.
Good God.
And I can't believe, I go, I politely ask you to not kick my seat, you give me the finger, turn around, and so I turn around and I'm thinking, what am I going to do here?
Was this one of the ex-wives? Who was
Yeah, right?
this?
There's no ushers or anything, I can't get her kicked out. And so I'm sitting there stewing for about 10 minutes, and then I get a tap on the shoulder.
I'm a big fan.
And I turn around and she's got her iPhone out with a picture of me from Freaks and Geeks on it and goes, is that you?
Oh, no.
And I said, yeah. She says, oh, what's your name? I said,
no.
Do you not remember our last exchange where you flipped me off? And then she said, oh, I knew who you were when I did that. I said, yeah, I don't think so. Go fuck yourself.
Nice.
And then turn around, and oddly enough, no feet the rest of the show.
Nice. That's a happy ending.
That was a happy ending.
That's a Christmas story.
There you go.
I can't believe you gave that up in October.
Yeah.
That's
I'll
a Dickens novel. So go fuck yourself. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sam Levine.
My pleasure.
And those of you who've not seen Inglorious Bastards, is that not reason enough? No, that's not the reason. The reason it's a phenomenal film. But that's a damn good story, Sammy.
Thank you, sir.
Now, as we continue with the Larry King game, I mentioned the Oprah, Miley, or Demi. That game is being postponed out of respect to Ms. Miley Cyrus. We're going to pick it up next week with a new title, Oprah, Paris, or Demi. It will prove to be just as fun. My guest at that time will be Paul F. Tompkins, another insanely funny man. It's Funny Men Month. At Stephen Ledger. Something you want to get to, Ken? Please, knock yourself out, buddy. It's week 27. We're not ready. At Stephen Ledger offers up this Larry King game. I have a dead hooker in my car, but it's okay. I didn't kill her. Chocolate Bayou, Texas, you're on the air. At Stephen Ledger, hit us again with your home address so that I can ship off the live CD a little off the top of my stand-up comedy. $4 on eBay, by the way. No shit. And we'll ship that out to you right away as a congratulations to being a part of the show. And I thank you. Please keep those coming. All right. As my guest today is ushered into his almost comfortable chair, I will commence with said intro, which I may have written a little too much today. So I will qualify it. But the truth is, I was raised on stand-up comedy albums of the great American comedians of the 60s, Bill Cosby, Bob Newhart, Don Rickles, the likes. In the 70s, I studied the masters as they shone from the television via Johnny Carson's Tonight Show, Pryor, Carlin, the Brothers Smothers, Robert Klein, a great modern New York Jewish genius, and even a uniquely Canadian Jew named Steinberg. The gold rush of stand-up comedy, as it was referred to, happened in the 80s. Here in the States, exploding with Robin Williams, David Letterman, Jerry Seinfeld, Jay Leno. I was coming of age myself as a stand-up about that time. I'd started in the late 70s as a mere 20-year-old with no real stage persona, or more importantly, a point of view. And what I sort of learned from all those masters was it was their point of view that set them apart, that made them who they were as performers, as comedians. You had a window into their thoughts and ultimately, in some cases, their soul as they poured it out on stage. Very few performers, other than the masters, I think ever reached that sort of Yoda level of not only stage comfort, but acceptance and adoration from an audience, in some cases worldwide. While all of that was going on here in the States, we'll find out what kind of a gold rush of stand-up comedy was going on in London, England. But by 1993, my guest debuted a one-man show on the stage of the storied West End Theatre District. His rather unique point of view was quite clear, and he was heralded by all the nation's newspapers as a revelation, followed by offers, outings with royalty, and awards. How about that?
And jump to the end.
Yeah.
I can't take much more. Because it's good. I like listening to the other bits, but I can't hear.
Yeah.
I got a bloody documentary about myself.
Exactly. That's what it's all setting up.
And now it's 2000.
We'll leave it, and now it's today. Ladies and Jews, please welcome Eddie Izzard. Thank you, sir. Yes.
Thank you
Please,
for having me.
please.
Isn't this my slightly... Did I come
It's
on?
almost your second
No, I
appearance.
sat at the back, didn't I?
Yes.
I didn't invade.
I should have just got to that.
I tell you, it's really weird sitting back there and feeling I can't say anything. Because you're just beginning.
It's not a comfortable
well,
feeling.
it's like being on the stage and just...
Waiting for your lines?
Yeah, waiting for the go signal. And go, oh, I can't say anything.
Yeah. So you've come here for just less than a week to talk about
a documentary that's come out called Believe that's playing in LA and going to play next week, which is about my own sad existence. But I want to pick up on your saying about the people giving their own viewpoints.
Point of view, yeah.
I think that is the epicenter. It's the comic philosopher thing, which there's not people in America won't have seen all the British comedians coming through, but because we've got a blocked film industry, a sort of a very tiny film industry, because we only play into 60 million population. In the 300 million of America, it's bigger, but still, it's kind of a lost leader. You know, a lot of films have difficulty trying to make their money back. All the stand, nearly all the stand-ups, or maybe all of them, they go into touring. So we do a hell of a lot of touring. So and I'm playing arenas now, and a number of them are playing arenas now, and it's like because we've got the top bit lopped off our thing. We just all bounce around the sort of lower levels or different levels, and so it's been great for our development, because a lot of people who get really good at stand-up in America, I think they go into television deals and they do films, and then they sort of don't do so much stand-up, so you don't get the chance to keep developing and get your own point of view through and get it so that you're coming up with some sort of philosophy. So we've accidentally caused a thing, which is, there's 80 clubs in London, it's a staggering amount of clubs.
That is. 70
to 80 clubs. Some of them come and go and whatever, but 70 to 80 clubs that will pay you money to do it. Not showcases, but actually pay you money.
That's unheard of.
And it's just it's the Hamburg, the Beatles Hamburg.
Right.
That's what has trained us up, and there's going to be a lot more that will come over. I mean, it's a little bit difficult crossing the pond, but I just wanted to say that
it's wildly difficult, actually, because there is so much, as you point out now, opportunity to work on your craft there, develop an audience on your own and on their own time. And then if you're fortunate enough to be embraced on a larger stage, as it were, then you move up to these larger venues.
Yeah.
But as that is all happening, as I'm studying up in preparation for today, the venture over to the States, that's one of the things that I was curious about for you, because There are those in this country who are rabid fans, and there are those who still need to be educated. Whereas, if we were in Europe right now, they would all not. No one would need to be educated. You're either a fan or you're not. But there's not so much education needed anymore, I guess is my.
Yeah, sort of. It's still a little. It's still a little weird. I mean, a number of people, you know, idea of doing documentaries. There's a documentary channel, isn't there, or the biography channel?
Yeah.
And they knock them together. And the idea of doing a documentary was, people had asked before, but with Sarah Townsend, I could trust her, so I gave her this complete access to all the stuff from before and all this footage and
is staggering.
It is quite interesting. The stuff in there that I hadn't seen, and my mother walking around with my father, which is in Sweden, which was taken by a Swedish family who are good friends with my parents.
How was that located?
That was because I went to play Sweden. I now play Sweden.
Of course.
I'm playing Gothenburg and Stockholm on this tour at the end of the year. And I met up with one of the family, the Ridson family, and there was the daughter of the family who actually wasn't born at that time I was on holiday.
Right.
But she said, my dad was a really keen cine camera guy, and he's got footage. So I said, can we have a look at it? And I basically, my mother came back to life. My mother, who died when I was 6, suddenly came back to life. And I hadn't even, I mean, I think I'd seen it once, and then I've just seen it because the documentary opened on Friday in LA, and it's really weird seeing my dad and seeing my mother just walk around and holding up my brother's hand and my hand and sitting around the table. It doesn't exist. The family sitting around the table just doesn't exist, and it does in this documentary. So that I find that quite
perfect.
It's perfect. It's like another life. It's the other life.
It's actually in some regards this beautiful subplot and/or bonus that came from this whole effort, which I'm curious about. Did this filmmaker come to you how long ago with the notion of doing?
Well, we had a relationship. We had a long, strange relationship, and she, we're now sort of officially separated. But so I knew her for a long time.
You had a personal relationship.
Yes,
is what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right.
Just
write that down in your dossier.
But I knew I actually asked her to film the live show.
Right.
And she said no, she'd rather do the documentary. So I said, okay.
Now, was that the first time you were in discussions ever about doing a documentary?
Well, yeah, I mean, stuff had been swirling around, but
in smaller bio versions.
Yeah, or people could cover it, but I just wasn't. I was always going to control it because I own the copyrights of my DVDs.
Sure.
Because I was doing accounting and financial management at university, and that is my. I
Chip
did
off
pass
the old
my
block
exams.
in that regard. Wasn't your father in accounting?
Yeah, he was an accountant. He didn't pass his exams. I didn't pass my exams. He didn't tell us this. He said, you have to go to university.
Right.
Me and my brother, big thing. And we thought, because he was obviously held back during he was at BP, petrol, oil. And I felt, he was obviously held back because he didn't have this thing. But in fact, they said, because he was an up-and-coming guy, they said, you should take your accountancy exams. So I don't know what they're called, the CPAs over here, whatever they're called. And he started doing them and got bored and chucked them in, which he didn't tell me until I was about mid-30s or 40 or something.
Oh, my God.
So if I'd known that, I would have just said, well, because I did pull out after 1 year at university. And my brother sort of went to a university where he didn't do exams, which they got so political at Sussex University that they did continuous assessment, which was actually a bloody nightmare.
Wow, that's genius.
So we both didn't pass exams in accounting, but we could add up. I'm quite good at adding up.
Well, yeah, you must be, because one of the things about that first West End show in '93 that I found insane was that you were also the promoter and the producer of the show. And
yes, I was working in tandem with a partner who was he'd run the comedy club that I'd started doing things with, and we'd sort of started a management company together. So I was very hands-on. I've always been very hands-on with the direction. Once I realised that no one knew. Some people know things, but a lot of people, no one knows exactly what's going to happen. And Transvestite with a Career was not. No one had the book of transvestite. What you've got to
17.
do. Well, they actually do. They say you got to be a prostitute, or that's really it. Or drag shows. That's about it. You got to sing songs, but not actually sing them. And so I was going to go up this route and try and I used this military thing. I was going to be in the army, and I've been very military about the whole hacking my way up this mountain.
Right.
Which is quite curious because I'm just reading about the Battle of Austerlitz, which is
were you?
If you look it up and it's one of Napoleon's famous battles, and was it at the end of it, because he had two empires. He writes a letter to Josephine afterwards saying, "I just conquered 2 armies run by 2 emperors. I'm a bit tired. Hope you're well." There's something like that. It's on Wikipedia. Have a look at it. And it's just and I think the Emperor of Russia said, or Austria said, we are babies in the hands of a giant, because he just did it. He did it really well. He made his right flank just look really weak. So they went, his right flank's weak, attack it. They went, oh, idiots. And then they were coming over and they weren't actually attacking enough. So he waited till they got out, then he ran up the middle. And, it was like he could just do, because the thing that they were doing, the ancien regimes, the old regimes, had high-ranking officers that were all nobility. And you'd buy your way in.
Right.
Duh, meritocracy. That's what he started, the meritocracy thing, which is if you're good at it, you get promoted. If you're bad, then you won't get promoted. And and obviously the nobles had their heads cut off. So that was kind of handy in a way. So they weren't vying to get in. So that's why he was very clever at being a general, and he had the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, the French Revolution there to be able to have the idea of a meritocracy. You could advance your way through the ranks, and
that's how you built the comedy regime in London.
Well, using that thing, if you use military tactics and whatever, I just knew I had to do something weird. I had to work out my own. No one was going to be able to say, this is what you should do as a straight transvestite who's not really a pretty transvestite, kind of a blokey transvestite, and to get America, because Americans were saying, some people were saying, well, they won't go for that thing with the makeup. And I had to come in at a certain level, in a certain way, and I just worked out it was New York. Go in and play New York to death until New York gave in. And if New York said yes, then the whole of North America, I estimated, would say, okay, we'll give you a chance. If New York, specifically the New York Times, said, all right.
Right.
And so I avoided the clubs, avoided trying to do a TV series, avoided trying to do a film, just played the PS 122, this 80-seater, and then another year at PS 122, and then went to the Westbeth.
Right.
So 3 years in a row, just kept going back.
But it was a strategic maneuver.
Yeah, very strategic, all the time. That's the only way to get through, really.
Yeah.
So study the Battle of Austerlitz if you want to.
Yeah. Well, please. They better be taking notes in the other room on that.
I've gone all over the place here, haven't I?
No. You know what? You just answered 17, 22, 14, and 11. No, one of the things that I was getting to before I was stopped by you was that I love this ranking thing, that you were voted by your countrymen as the number 3 on the all-time greatest comedians of all time of the Britons.
Yeah, and 75 in America, though.
Well, this is what I wanted to point out, that when Comedy Central here in the States put their list together, you were 75, I, on the other hand, 67.
Wow.
So if we follow the Stonecutters theory from The Simpsons, you are in my servitude. I bow at your feet in all other scenarios.
No, but it's a very interesting thing, isn't it?
It is, actually.
Because there's in those things, I don't know who voted for them. It's the public was voting for those, I believe, both of them.
Yeah.
And so there's obviously talent involved in what you're funny. Then there's also taste of whether people like that.
A subjective
and then
art
there's
form.
How rabid your fans are, and then how well you're known, I suppose. There's about 3 or 4 things that are going on in those. So one should look at them and then move away and then don't get,
Yeah, I think...
Especially the 75. The 3 one, I tend to focus on a hell of a lot.
The 3 one is very real.
No, but
it's very real. Whereas the Comedy Central one was I think agreed upon by 12 wildly jaded comedians.
Really, was it?
Oh. But I know the one that in the Britain was sort of voted on by literally the country through the BBC.
Yeah, but it would have been like 10,000 people as opposed to 60 million.
Yeah, and I always enjoyed when I was told that I was 67th. That what was Chaplin? Did he get on the list at all?
I don't know.
He wasn't. He wasn't on the list.
He wasn't on it?
No.
You see, I never used to find Chaplin very funny. And on the anniversary of his birth in 1989, I was a street performer, as in this documentary it shows.
Yeah.
And I went down to the South Bank, and they had a Museum of the Moving Image, and they had a special section on him. And I thought, and I was interested as a student of comedy, and I think you might be too, for the silent films, they never really grabbed me as a comedian. And I wonder why, or go back to Shakespeare's comedies, why they're supposed to be so funny, yet I look at them now and I go, God, nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole Mechanicals play in the Midsummer Night's Dream, there's nothing going on. And the Thisbe, and there's a hole in the wall, and going, is there any comedy? I just, even with, if I take out the flowery words and the way they're talking, I maybe, but it's
relevant at the time, or it isn't.
well, that's it. I was just wondering, as a student of comedy, I wonder what happens. Is there a shelf life on comedy? Does it actually change? And then Chaplin to now didn't seem that long. Then I went and watched Chaplin in the cinema with an orchestra, which obviously wouldn't have happened when they were watching it, but it gave the full focus. And I watched some shorts,
right.
And I watched the boxing match sequence. I watched kid auto races shot at Venice Beach, first ever one, which is where it's a very simple idea. They're shooting. So the cameras are shooting another camera team, which in this film are trying to shoot the race. And there's a guy who's got a moustache on, and he's just trying to get in the camera's way. He's just trying to get in the background, like you've seen a million times after the thing, but he does it really, really well.
Right.
And I was laughing at Chaplin for the first time, and I thought, so it is funny, but you have to be in the right. It has to be in the venue that it was designed for. And it was edited at a certain speed, when there's no wireless, there's not even radio.
No.
He was not even competing with radio. It was music hall or him, or the films.
Right.
And it obviously blew their minds. And they didn't have to compete with radio, no way TV, nothing else. And that's, if you go back and look at it with the 1920s head,
right.
It's amazing. It's really good, and the kid is really good. The kid is really good.
Yeah, but and you're right.
The
in the time, the kid also takes on a level of profoundness that is impossible to embrace under today's understanding of anything, quite frankly. But at the time, it had a level of being profound as this moving, visual, cinematic story.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real tearjerker and a heartstring thing, and he sort of could lean that way, of doing it too melodramatic, and but it still really works. The kid, and the Gold Rush as well, and but not all of them. And I haven't sat down and watched all his films back to back with that sensibility on. I've just seen what was the one with the flower seller, the blind flower seller, which is City Lights, I think. Yeah, that was the one I saw, and the number of shorts. And he was amazingly. Physical, amazingly athletic. The skating. He taught himself to skate for the rink,
right?
And it was really good skating, really dangerous stuff. And he really could do that physical stuff, which I
can't roller skate.
I can't roller skate, but he could do flips and stuff, and dive into ponds that weren't full with water and all this kind of stuff. And
there was a sense of the street performer in him, and I have to wonder if that was something that, at that point in your life, the late '80s. If you didn't relate to that aspect of it as well.
Well, see, a lot of the street performers were going to see, particularly, it wasn't Chaplin, it was Buster Keaton. Everyone kept going on about Buster Keaton. And for me, none of the silence really grabbed me. It was the verbal guys that really got me. I mean, Woody Allen's stand-up I felt very close to, because it was very surreal, and he took a tablecloth and wrapped it around his neck, and then he got caught in the subway train, so he's flying around outside, and I was doing stories. That's where I felt my stuff was. And Python was the visual representation of that, Monty Python. But the silent stuff, which I was actually doing or learning to do when I was setting up my street shows, I used to set up any street show without any words. You could grab a big audience just by looking at people and then doing things and looking back, and then people would stop and go, what the hell is he doing? So I knew that sensibility, but it wasn't my absolute strength.
You hadn't studied Chaplin or any of those greats prior to?
No, I didn't even think of the link until afterwards, actually.
Right.
I mean, once the guys were saying, because people were cleaning up footage, and the General, Buster Keaton's film had been cleaned up, and it was put on at the Palladium, so all the street performers went there on one Sunday morning, and it was showing. It was actually Unknown Chaplin, a documentary called Unknown Chaplin, which I don't know if I've seen here, but it was brilliant. Someone was told to burn all his footage, his outtakes, from when he was running his own studio, and they didn't. And this was the stuff that looked really pristine, because you see that grainy stuff, and you think, this doesn't really link with me. And if you watch Unknown Chaplin, this documentary that must be somewhere that we could download it. It looks so like shot yesterday. It just looks like it's shot yesterday on very bright black and white, really clear black and white stuff. And it's got all of him walking in and going, no, do that, no talking, but he's going. and going cut, and you could just see him doing it, and that really got me into Chaplin. That's the thing, unknown Chaplin.
Unknown Chaplin. Tell me, because I know from the exhaustive research, as well as what's captured in this documentary, Believe the Eddie Izzard Story.
Yeah.
Good title.
Well, you know,
No.
trying to find a title is tricky, but yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is at the end of the. Often for writers of fiction, I'll say the title till I get to the end, and then we'll figure out what the hell all this means.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine of one's life. You think,
Well,
what's the
I
one
didn't.
word?
I didn't come up with this. This is all
Good.
Sarah Townsend
It
stuff.
makes more sense that you didn't.
And I just saw it about 3 or 4 times over the last 6 years, and
Right.
and that's really it.
Is that
So,
it? 6
yeah,
years?
So
6 years has this been in the work?
yeah. I mean, it's been sort of mooted about for a bit longer, but the 6 years is really the.
Right. So in that, I found that you had got a very serious calling for Edinburgh Festival in terms of that's where you were going to go to make your bones as a performer.
This was my analytical thing.
Yeah.
Even before it really kicked in, I was thinking, I better get to, I found one group, Monty Python, who'd taken off, and they both had gone to Oxford and Cambridge, sort of half and half.
Right.
And there was one American, I couldn't really go where Gilliam, because I thought, you come from America, I can't go to America, so all I could do was base it on these guys, and then they would do stuff at the Edinburgh Festival. So it was go to Oxford or Cambridge, and then get to the Edinburgh Festival. So I was aiming for Cambridge, but then I decided not to work, to look cool. I decided that I was girls had disappeared from my school, then reappeared in the last 2 years, and I wasn't playing any sports, so there was apart from comedy, there was nothing interesting about me, and
Right.
punk was just cutting in. I thought, I'm just working hard to get exams, and God, I'm so boring. So I just decided not to work. So that I thought
Good
would
choice.
make me interesting, make
Yeah.
me a rebel, and also failed me getting to Cambridge, which was a good thing in the end. It was good to go to Sheffield, because it's a northern city. It had a tough time in the 80s. It was good to see how there's a north-south divide, like we've got a north-south divide here. In Italy, they have a flipped one. They have a rich north and a poorer south.
Right.
And so it's just good to have gone up there, and I have a whole relationship with Sheffield. And then they gave me a doctorate at the end. I pulled out of university, but they gave me an honorary doctorate.
What year was that?
That was about 2 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. It's in the thing, but it's
absolutely
great
perfect.
to finally get one.
But for you, Sheffield was dad pressure, go to university.
Yeah.
But also in your mind a gateway to Edinburgh.
Edinburgh. And Edinburgh was the place. So go to Edinburgh, do some shows, get known, television series, and it's all just...
And the documentary really
And that didn't happen.
tells the story in the kind of detail that is sort of inspiring and heartbreaking at the same time in terms of what it really took to build up to even a level where you could get someone to come see you. Going there as a complete unknown, and really going there, I think, partly as an education. You may have had a military strike to lead you there,
Right.
but it seemed like once you got there, your education of your new life began.
At the Edinburgh, at the Edinburgh Festival? Yeah, well, it was
Because
I didn't see it as I thought it was like, I'd do one that'll be good, but the first one we did was shite. The second one was shite-ish. Reviewed as a load of shabby old tat. The third one, I can't even remember what the review we got. The third one, we did get better, but no one ever played us really a blind bit of nose. The first year, I was asked to do one thing on a recording, but that's it. It sort of went backwards.
Yeah. And then you moved it outside.
Well, then I became a street performer. I dumped it. I just dumped the whole medium. I decided sketch comedy is not for me. And
What
became
was
a street
that moment, though, where you said, did you just see some people doing something outside at the festival and thought, well, I'll give that a go?
Yeah, there's a band, it's covered in the documentary called
Right.
Pookie Snackenberger. They
Right.
became Stomp.
Right.
Luke Creswell and Steve McNicholas, and they became Stomp, who are now all over the world. And, very ambitious guys wanting to get ahead, and they do their stuff all around the world.
Right.
And they had a street band, and there was a theatre company called Cliffhanger from the south coast, from Brighton City in the south coast of England. And together they did this massive show up at Edinburgh, which is about 15 of them in it. So that immediately gets you a big audience. 15 people is going to pull people in, but they were that good as well, because they had the music was tight, and they had this bizarre story at lunchtime at Mr. Cara's, I think it was. And it was all set in the Middle East, a bit like a Bob Hope and Bing Crosby kind of
Road
story
to.
with music. Road to, kind of one of those set in Cairo or something, And we just thought this was, I just thought this was brilliant. And people were ad-libbing, and people, and cats and dogs and cars and everything drove through it, you know, or just would get in the way, and they'd just play with it. And I thought, this is so alive.
Yeah.
Got to do this, and tried to do it. And it was, in Edinburgh, there's a lot of people around, so you do get an audience. But when I took it down to London, the audience they had so much else to do, and there was no festival. They could go watch a film, have a coffee, do some shopping.
Why are you in my way?
Yeah. And it was really murderous, and I sort of lost it all. But eventually stayed in it and came back up. But there was a year and a half of going downhill, really. Or a good year of going downhill before.
Is that what was the year? Because when I was watching the footage as you were going through the phase of being an on-street performer, all of a sudden you're on a unicycle, and I'm wait a second. Did you just pick up the unicycle?
So
or?
late '85, come down as a double act, and then we're doing failed tricks and beavers jumping through hoops of newspaper, eating loads of cornflakes, escaping from a woolly jumper, stuff like that. So in about that's late '85. Then next year, '86, started doing a sword fighting act, again with my partner.
That's beautiful. I love that a whole bunch.
That was interesting, but we couldn't really get a story into it. It was very difficult. You know, we did lots of little pieces.
Very showy.
Of how to do stuff. It looked showy, but it was difficult to quite get the arc in there. Again, you have to do very violent stuff to keep people interested. And then in '87, I went solo, so I was doing ropes and chains just being wrapped around me. And by about '88, I'd got onto a unicycle and did these sort of escaping from manacles. So '88, '89 was the so it was about 4.5 years, 5 years as a street performer, which taught me how to perform when no one wants to watch it.
Well, that's what I was thinking as I was watching it. There was a real sense of, by the time you got to a stand-up comedy stage, your presence and wherewithal in front of people was a relaxed state, whereas others were fretting and uncomfortable and awkward. You had already mastered what it felt like to stand in front of strangers and entertain.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And all I didn't have was personal talking material, but I had written sketch material, so I even had a confidence that I should be able to create something. And there's a whole piece, I don't know.
I saw where you took a two-man piece
and cut it in half.
Cut out the other person.
Yeah,
and then do it as a solo.
It was all an interview going, so I hear you're an addict. Yeah. And so how long? 2, 3. And what is it? Well, it's breakfast cereal, and it was all Frosties and things. Right. And I keep eating the sugar ones, and then I put them on a piece of thing, and I like porridge, and I inhale a few. So it was all breakfast cereal and doing drugs. That as a drug, because it is a drug. It's a sugar drug. And that sort of worked, and I thought, I'll just do that. I'll write two-handers, cut out the interviewer, and that will be it. I assumed hopefully it might flow into something else, but in fact I never did anything after that. I just kept pushing and twisting, and the ad-libbing style started of going, well, so, you just go in and say, lights, everyone lights, it's lights. What is with light, and if there was no sun, could we... Say it was really warm, but there was no sun. Could we do that? Could we do it all dark but quite warm?
Right.
This is and I just do that. The audience would stare at me and they go, "No." They go, "Do you hate no light? Do you? You don't like dark?" So if you either get jokes on the way in or jokes on the way out or whatever, and eventually your confidence keeps building, and then eventually your material catches up with your confidence.
And also the confidence to partake in the stream of conscious act. That takes a level.
Well, I think I was in love with it, so I don't think I was ever choosing to...
It chose you, in a sense.
Well, Python had already... there was a Goon Show, which was also covered in the documentary, which is Spike Milligan, Peter Sellers. Spike Milligan, less known here, but he was the writer and the real godfather of alternative comedy, or surreal comedy for us, and then Python all saw that, and they said, let's do that and do a visual version of that, and then I saw Python, and I'm, a lot of us are now children of Python in Britain, and it obviously affected here. Then Saturday Night Live took theirs to that place, and,
absolutely,
and on, and so yeah.
But I mean, the confidence on stage to move from a sketch for two guys that have been cut in half to talking about the lights to, I guess at the time was starting what your act became, which is again point of view, and your particular point of view as it evolved to written but also improvised and stream of conscious on stage was all your point of view, be it history or what.
Well, I just suddenly realized no one was doing history, so that's
when did that take place?
It just hit me one day.
What day? Give me a year.
So I started in '88. It must have hit me about '89, '90, about About a year and a half into
Well,
it.
I have to say, you know that moment where a comedian is watching another comedian on stage, and the one on stage does a bit, and you know the comedian watching enjoys it because his thought is, fuck, what did I think of that? I have to assume when you decided to take on history, that must have just been like a domino effect of one comedian after another. Just I see in the physical that they fall backwards going, why the fuck didn't I think of that? Because it's such a revelation, quite frankly, in terms of material's all there.
Yeah,
It's
and
all
it makes
there,
you look,
and it goes back
makes you look really
centuries.
intelligent. Makes you look really intelligent because you're talking about this, and people saying you're intellectual. Saying, no, I just watch DVDs and then talk about it, and you make them very now. And it's actually what Python was doing. I was,
Right,
Eric Idle was saying, he came and saw a show and he said, Eric Idle from Monty Python saying it was, I'm doing like the stand-up version of Python, and that is all I am doing. They'd already take the highbrow stuff and you talk about it really stupidly, and then you take the lowbrow stuff and talk about it in very highfalutin terms. You summarize Proust in 15 seconds,
right.
all the works of Proust, which is bloody impossible and it goes on forever, or you intellectualize something that's very lowbrow, the upper class Twitter of the Year competition, or whatever it was. So, and that's all I sort of do, really. I just keep going to areas and taking a modern sense of cavemen going, God, if we only had fire, it'd be a lot warmer, wouldn't it?
Well, you don't shy away from pop culture because it's influenced you the way it does all of us. If you don't mind, I want to show a little clip from yesteryear for the 2% of the people watching who are sitting next to someone who's saying, you don't understand, this is the funniest human being on the planet and has been for a long time. And the person's there, all right. And then so let's show them.
Well, I can't go with that. I just
let's go. Let's show them number 3 as voted by clip from the I don't want to give it away, but I guess I have no choice. The let's just call it Darth Vader, shall we? Oh God, we'll just do a minute of this, as much as you can stomach.
Is this the Lego version?
Well, I want to show a little bit of Lego too. Do you want to just show the Lego? No, I gotta show you.
You should show a bit of the other one, but I think I prefer the Lego one.
Let's. I want to talk to you about the Lego one, but go ahead and roll the live Eddie version of the.
But the Death Star, the one thing about the Death Star is that there was no food. No one had food at all. No food at all. No one said, hey, Darth Vader, Emperor, just nipping down to Alpha Beta 9. What do you want, a couple of sarnies, chicken, ham chicken, egg, what, Coke, Diet Coke, what you want? You weird bleeders. But there must have been a Death Star canteen, yeah? There must have been a cafeteria downstairs, in between battles, where Darth Vader could just chill and go down. I will have the penne alla arrabbiata. You'll need a tray. Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? This is not a game of who the fuck are you. For I am Vader. Darth Vader. Lord Vader. I can kill you with a single thought. Well, you'll still need a tray. No, I will not need a tray. I do not need a tray to kill you. I can kill you without a tray, with the power of the Force, which is strong within me. Even though I could kill you with a tray if I so wished. For I would hack at your neck with the thin bit until the blood flowed across the canteen floor. No, the food is hot. You'll need a tray to put the food on. Oh, I see the food is hot. I'm sorry. I did not realize.
That's the beauty. That's that beautiful turn where Darth Vader goes from murderous lunatic to reasonable person in line. I'm sorry, it's hot. Right, you're right. I do need a tray. That turn is.
No, I was just saying to you, I had to get it. I realized when I was doing, because I would do it different every night. It would go. I just kept going for penne alla arrabbiata because I think it was the first first pasta dish that I could sort of eat because I never used to eat it, and then I had to get I like the idea of the tray as being a weapon of death. Someone murdering with a tray, and when she says you need a tray, and he goes, no, I don't, but I could kill you with it. I could,
the thin part,
and it's not really realistic that he could, but once he's got it in, then it's a whole. Because later on he says, shut up or I'll kill you with the tray.
Right.
And you could just see him doing that. And they go, what have you got? You got mind powers. Oh, yeah, well, I had a tray. I don't know.
Right. That's the beauty. That's I think where your a point of view, as I was discussing before, sets everything apart, which is how silly does it go? How logical does it still need to be in your mind? It needs to track.
Yeah, well, that comes out of what John Cleese talked about and Marty Feldman talked. You know Marty Feldman from Young Frankenstein. What he talked about, that if you set up your logic, as long as you set that up and you stick to it, it will flow. Right. And so the logic was Darth Vader on a Death Star, got to eat, they got to eat. Canteen, probably must have, in a realistic, there's those bad guys, they got to, the Nazis, they had a canteen. So the Death Star, they had a canteen. Right. And there could have been, it's supposed to be a woman behind there. And in fact, when he goes down there, he's actually going into a 1980s service station on the motorway, on the M1. I was hitching up and down the motorway to go to Sheffield University, and I'm going back down to London and trying to get something going there and then going back up. And
that was fashioned after? Is your memory
yes,
of
that's
that?
what I'm channeling, because when the European Union, which I'm very positive on, that started having more and more of an influence on life in the UK, and the food started coming in, the pasta started coming in. It wasn't there before. We had a very bad reputation in food, so pasta would turn up, and they'd say, "Do you want pasta?" And essentially they'd say, "Do you want pasta? Do you want sausage on that?" Yeah. And we'd go, "What?" And they'd say, "Do you want gravy on it?" You go, "Hang on." And it would just be this weird, anything would go on in a huge mass, including pasta. Right. And that was kind of what he walks into. And then there's other stuff going on, and people get pushing in the line, and the fact that the trays are always wet. And
the tray's always wet really kills me. But now how does this become this Lego thing? Are you contacted, or somebody says, this thing popped up on YouTube, you have to see it?
There's a 15-year-old kid somewhere in America who's doing it.
Oh, you're kidding?
Yeah.
Oh, that's...
Yeah, we have no idea who...
That's even better.
Yeah, just some kid's done all these. And because the status exchange in the Darth Vader ones, that one works the best. Some of the other ones don't quite work so well because the sketches aren't... The scenes aren't so good for that, because you can't get a lot of emotion into a Lego piece. But that's what that is. And then that took off, and it's about 7 million hits on it.
When did the Lego thing start?
I don't know, like 2-3 years ago. It could be longer. I mean, I know sometimes you look back at these things and it's 7 years ago.
Yeah, right.
But I'd actually put that piece away, the Darth Vader piece. And then I heard a very good friend of mine in Ireland told another really good, it's called Barry Murphy. He's a very funny guy you won't know here. Dylan Moran, who comes and plays here, another Irish comedian, is very good, who does play in America. And he said that Barry had said it's a really good piece. And I thought, really? I was in New York at the time, and I thought, oh, I'll listen to it. I listened to it again. I thought, oh, yeah, this is quite funny. Because I'd done it so many times, I'd sort of dumped it. And it would change every time. And sometimes it would be really funny, and sometimes I'd lose it because I was overdoing it. Right. And it's a chess game as well. I don't know if you ever do pieces like that where I can trip myself up. I try to. So he goes, why would you do this? Well, I'm just putting food on. Would you want to eat it? Right. I don't. What? So you really do switch so that you're going, well, do you have anything else but the penne? So we had asparagus that I've gone.
The question is, which one of the two becomes your focus of?
Well, both. You have to jump into each one so strong that you can try and trick the other one. Because that's when I really like it. When I go, I don't want to be here. And when he says, yeah, I'm your boss, you're Mr. Stevens, that is a very nice.
That kills me.
That is.
I'm your boss, Darth Vader says.
You're Mr. Stevens.
And the cook says,
you're head of catering, not head of bloody...
Show them a little bit of the Lego feast. And people check this out at your leisure. There's the real...
And there's also a bit... Have you ever heard of Tony Hancock? Hancock's Half Hour. You may not have heard him. He was a very funny guy on television. Ended up, unfortunately, killing himself. But... He was based. It is. It's a real tragic story. But he was very funny, and he had Hancock's Half Hour that became a television series, and he was based in Cheam, East Cheam. And at one point, I say Baron von Vader. I'm saying he's got these titles that he's reeling off. That I was making up. I was ad-libbed them, and it's Baron von Vaderham of Cheam or something like that. Right. I get Cheam in there, which is a place in London. So that was in honor of him. Anyway.
Let me see a couple of seconds of the Lego.
But there must have been a Death Star canteen, yeah? There must have been a cafeteria downstairs, in between battles, where Darth Vader could just chill and go down. I will have the penne alla arrabbiata. You'll need a tray. Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? This is not a game of who the fuck are you. For I am Vader. Darth Vader. Lord Vader. I can kill you with a single thought. We'll still need a tray. No, I will not need a tray. I do not need a tray to kill you. I can kill you without a tray, with the power of the force, which is strong within me. Even though I could kill you with a tray if I so wished. For I would hack at your neck with the thin bit until the blood flowed across the canteen floor. No, the food is hot. You'll need a tray to put the food on. Oh, I see the food is hot. I'm sorry. I did not realize. Oh, tray for the... Yes. I thought you were challenging me to the fight to the death. Fight to the death? This is a canteen. I work here. Yes, but I am Vader. I am Lord Vader. Everyone challenges me to a fight to the death. Lord Darth Vader. I'm Darth Vader. Sir Lord Vader. Sir Lord Darth Vader. Lord Vader of Cheam. Sir Lord Baron von Vaderham. The Death Star. I run the Death Star. What's the Death Star? This is the Death Star. You're in the Death Star. I run this star. This is a star. This is a fucking star. I run it. I'm your boss. You're Mr. Stevens. No, I'm...
Fucking, and so at some point, each time you do it, also becomes a challenge too. I know what I've done with this before, and now I want to do something different.
But I set up pieces like that. Do you
Right,
do you do that? I actually get pieces where you think this one is a one I can riff on each time, and you just keep changing the riff. And sometimes you get it perfect, so it's really strong, and then you keep going and you break it down again, and it actually becomes less good.
Yes.
And then you can go and find another version. And it's kind of like Prince, constantly remixing on the same tracks.
Right.
That's what I think. It's going through jazz versions of it.
Right.
And just to keep yourself in it, because all I'm trying to do is make myself laugh.
Sure.
That's the first person in the audience, and then there's the rest of the audience, and you try and obviously keep them close.
When did you become aware of something like that? Because that, again, is the seventh level of chess, that sort of thinking that normally takes
the me thing and
a
the fun
few
thing?
decades in the trenches before you come to grips with.
It was a while, but I realized that when I started hosting these clubs, 3 clubs in London,
right,
and I was doing new material each week because the audience was very regular, very local audience. It wasn't the central London; it was outlying suburban areas. And
So
I
you
thought
felt
I can't.
pressure.
Yeah, I felt I can't. Some people were going and just doing the same thing, and the audience would go, "Oh, we know this stuff." So I went. Whoa. What happened today? It's cold today, isn't it?
Right.
And people would go, and there was nothing. For 6 months, it was really just staggering around, as I think I cover in the documentary. And then gradually, after about 6 months, I started getting the ability to, it's like on a unicycle, to do it. Like even with stand-up, we have to start. We're the only creative art form that we have to get paying people in front of us to learn to do it. You can't do it in a room, can you? You can't. Everyone else is practicing in front of mirrors. Rock and roll, the bands get together, the actors, they go, do those lines again. We have to start already up there on the wire.
Right.
And it's the hardest bloody thing. So
And
that
gets the least amount of respect
does it?
as an art form in the
Not
States.
in the UK.
Yeah.
And I think it's because in the States, when they came over, they said, "Oh, you're not a stand-up." And I went, "I am a stand-up. I've worked hard to be a stand-up." And they're saying, "Oh no, you're a monologist." And they were trying to. I wish I didn't know quite what that meant, but
They being the promoters?
No, the people, audience people, and they would come up to me in New York and say this, and
You're
it was
too
because
great to be a stand-up.
well, they were trying to pull me out of this thing of because they felt stand-up was, hey, it was your hometown, my haircut, yeah. Does anyone eat spoons? Spoons. God, my dad had a spoon, and then who likes chutney? Chutney. Well, although those beginner questions that I must admit, I don't think I ever did. Does anyone like Breaking Wind? Well, I remember the King of Siam came around my place. I've lost what the point was. Yes, so this monologist thing. So so the comic philosopher thing is the standard place. Stand-up that's why Bill Hicks got well received in Britain because we'd split mainstream and alternative. And so the people who were going to do the sexist and racist stuff were on a different circuit.
Right.
And then we started the alternative, which was small, in 79. It wasn't me, 1979, the end of punk.
Right.
And then they gradually came up through the 80s, and then they took over mainstream. And then it became, so the comedy people, you're supposed to be putting in points that resonate about culture, about lifestyles, about middle class, about whatever it is. We're all supposed to do that, and it's a real great place to be. It's all up in the Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen kind of place, as opposed to in some sort of fatuous place. So if you stand up in the UK, it is great, and then all the Scandinavians are doing it now, and they're going to come, and the Dutch, they're coming into Britain, and London is the hottest place because I believe that New York and LA, they're showcase kind of gigs. A lot of the gigs are showcase where you go in and you
San
don't really
Francisco is great. I'm sure you've been there. That's
Yeah.
a pretty amazing and supportive community is where I came out of, and Dana Carvey and Robin Williams and a bunch of other people. And actually, the generation behind us was great stuff. Jake Johansson and Paula Poundstone and Ellen DeGeneres and Robbie Schneider, and a bunch of really...
We've just learned from America. It's just like the Beatles. The Beatles came over and did what they heard coming out of America and came back and did it and said, this is what you're doing. And they went, no, you know, you're doing something else. And we went, we just did what you thought you were doing. Right. And that's what we did. You know, and you just get a different sensibility because you are across the other side of the Atlantic and growing up in a different place, and it feels different. But we really did. Lenny Bruce is the sort of godfather of alternative stand-up, and then in Britain, Billy Connolly is he was doing alternative stand-up before anyone else.
Is that right? He was the founding fathers as a stand-up.
Everyone was doing sketches, and then Billy would come on and do this really weird stuff. And stories, and he'd come from out of folk music, and he just the gaps in between his songs got bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually he became the comedian. So he was the sort of first alternative stand-up, like about 10 to 15 years before any of the rest of us.
Wow. We are going to take a brief intermission.
Okay.
So that certain people can remove urine from their bodies. If you know what I'm saying.
Which people? You should just keep it going and go pee.
Well, it's me.
Yeah. I know, but you could go pee.
Well, one of the reasons for the intermission is to say, wow, can you believe we've already chatted for an hour?
Oh, wow.
Right? But, so there's only 2 more hours to go. But during the intermission, you get to see clips of the Larry King game. Do you remember Larry King game from your last visit when you were here for Chris
No,
McQuarrie?
I do remember there was a game, but I can't remember quite how it works.
The premise is simple. Larry, God bless him, hell of a career. But let's face it, he's 107. It is our belief here that it's only a matter of time before Larry accidentally shares something about himself on the air that none of us should know. So when it's your turn to do the Larry King game, 3 rules. You must do a bad Larry King impression. Now you see there's no pressure to do a good one. You must do a bad Larry King impression. Then, as Larry, speaking in Larry's voice on his show, you reveal something about Larry on the air. And then you go to the phones, and it helps if the name of the city is funny sounding. Would you like to see a bad example? I have several.
Are you saying that I'm supposed to do this?
At the end of our chat. You've got another hour. Relax. Go ahead and roll a few so we'll see some of my past guests as well as some of you, the home viewers who have produced your own and sent them into the YouTube channel. Take a look now. I have all my guests do something called the Larry King game. You do a bad Larry King impression, reveal something about yourself on the air as Larry, doing the show, and then go to the phones. Hopefully the name of the city is somewhat funny sounding.
Okay, let me begin the transformation into Larry King.
Yeah.
Feel it? Pretend like you're wearing a Ned Hardy shirt. Yep. You just got divorced. Now you married a younger woman. Third heart attack. Fourth heart attack. There you go. Go. You're getting it.
I have a birthmark in the shape of Satan on the tip of my penis. Browntown, Ohio. You're on.
Back when I was still drinking, I used to dream I was being attacked by a giant raccoon, and I'd wake up the next morning with a dead furry in bed beside me. Bald Knob, Arkansas, talk to me.
Good evening, I'm Larry King, and whenever I go to bed each night, I sleep with a copy of Blue Crush between my ass cheeks. Why? So I can ensure that I'll have the kind of dreams I want. Dreams where Michelle Rodriguez kicks me around the goddamn studio and does what I call clipboarding my balls. Go!
And just a side note, ever since my 82nd birthday, my poop looks like strawberry ice cream. Tastes like vanilla. Michigan Falls, Indiana, you're on the line.
All right, everybody, and we're back with Kevin Pollak. Little known fact about myself, I like to, when I have acid reflux, I put it in a little cup, and I keep it by my bed, and I give it to my wife at night. She likes it. It puts us both to sleep. Lake Winnipesaukee, New Hampshire, your call.
Now, Miami, Florida, 1965, neck deep in an orgy. Dick York gave me a blowjob so good it popped my goiter. California, Rancho Cucamonga, you're on the air.
I'm Larry King. Andy Rooney, Wilfred Brimley, and I all share the same cryogenically created torso. We're a human bobblehead. Monkey Brow, Arizona, you're on the air.
That's all it takes.
My microphone smells just like Ruth Buzzy's taint. Dead Horse, Alaska, you're on the air.
I'm sitting in my own sauce. Wichita, hello. Wichita.
What?
Every time I say or hear Anderson Cooper's name, a little bit of pee trickles down my leg. Knoblick, Kentucky, are you there?
Oh, Christ. I like to make sure my panties match my bras every day. Sweetwater, Texas, you're on the line.
Before the surgery, I was known as Larry Queen. Sacaponic, New York, you're on the air.
Our next guest is the woman I want to fuck, Dakota Fanning. Boca Raton, you're on the air.
Is that right? Is that right?
No more calls. We've got a winner.
Larry King here. These suspenders are the only things holding up my balls. Coming, Georgia. You're on.
The best piece of pussy I ever had was Mary Magdalene. Yucaipa, California, you're on the air.
Hi, this is Larry King. I'm so old that I am the Virgin Mary's illegitimate father. Christmas, Florida, you're on the air.
One time I let a chick shove a brush up my ass. Beaver, Pennsylvania, you're on the air.
That's all I was looking for. To be honest with you, that was really it. Yeah.
Official Dr. Khan Larry King game entry. You don't marry 7 different broads and maintain a respect for the vagina. Smiley Bird Kansas, you're on.
In the fall of 1971 at an Arco station in Buttonwillow, I had my entire fist up Monty Hall's ass. So is that kind of what you're going for?
Go to the phone.
Butte, Montana. So there you go. I wanted to do a long one.
So no pressure. I just remembered that this doesn't work for Europeans.
Well, it's tricky. I
had a couple of weeks ago, while the Emmys were on here, I had 3 Oscar winners. That was my way to combat the attention all the Emmys were getting, and all 3 European. Jane Campion, and
she's Australian.
Australian,
yeah.
Which way? Yeah.
You're going to put that in the European bracket?
The prison.
The geography. So
the prisoners. That's typical American, right?
Yeah.
I meant the prisoners of Europe.
I don't think Australians would really mind that too much of being.
Oh no, I think they would probably.
They hate
fancy
to be UK, to be English, but they might not mind being European. Anyway.
No, I'm sorry. I meant foreign. No, so Jane Campion, and then Glennon Marr from Swell Season, the movie Once. Fantastic musicians, singer-songwriters. Anyways,
right.
They won an Oscar for the song for the movie Once.
Yeah.
So the 3 of them were on, and I had them sit down and watch the monitor before the show and watch this clip. And Marr, who's Czechoslovakian, said, in her broken Czech and Irish accent, spending so much time with Glenn, said, "I don't want to take the piss out of someone I don't know." Basically,
it is tricky because we don't know where we don't know how they're positioned in the thing. So I mean, I have been here a time, but I haven't grown up with him. It's like the Jimmy Savile is probably the equivalent. There's a guy called Jimmy Savile who used to speak in a strange voice, and you get a Jim will fix it badge, and he had complete white hair, and he'd sit around in tracksuits, very shiny tracksuits, and kids would say, I want to be on top of the Eiffel Tower. He says, well, we went around there, and I can't even do an impression of him, but it would be that as it happens, and he'd have a big cigar, and he'd have all these rings, and he was like glam rock continued, but without any of the makeup, just all the rings and stuff, and shiny tracksuits, and that, I mean, that's not the same as Larry King, but it's in that similar, such an identifiable thing, but if you haven't grown up with that, it's difficult for you to grab in there.
That's what it is, and it makes all the sense in the world, by the way. So don't feel like you're bowing out of something that we so desperately wanted you to do. That's really not what's happening. No,
you should have one for aliens, because
I need to have an alien version. You're absolutely right.
It's weird, in America, if you're not from America, you're called an alien, and it does mean that if an English person is there and a Mexican is there and a actual bloody alien from the film Alien with the big head and the thing that comes out. If they're all standing in the queue, because they say, "Because you aliens go over here," and we'd all be bloody aliens.
Right.
We're not aliens. We're actually foreigners.
Right.
I don't know how this whole alien thing.
But doesn't that speak to the American ego?
It speaks to, I think it speaks to the very early America when it was the Alien Sedition Act that...
well, clearly, yeah, or the technical term.
Brought in by John Adams.
Yeah, let's say
As
John
you'll know
Adams.
that. Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah, John Adams brought that. Didn't he bring that in, or was it...
You say it's true, and I'm just going to nod my head because you're the expert.
Because you're...
on all histories.
Your past, the past of the United States is like our present.
How brief it is, you mean?
No, the fact that you were 13... colonies that became loose confederation of states, and then they said we've got to try something different on this. How do we learn to work together? And there were people.
And the European Union is just becoming that.
European Union is learning to work together. We can't say the word federal.
Right.
In Europe, in America you can't say the word socialist.
Right.
And it's also another weird thing. I thought is if you look at the people who left Europe, they left this thing where there was, the aristocracy had all this cash, and there was a social bloc there to get them through, and they went and came over here, and now you're having to fight like crazy to get healthcare that everyone in the developed world, I believe, every single country has except America, and it's almost just like it's back in Europe.
Right.
We've all got the healthcare. We've had it for ages.
Yeah.
We've had it for about 50 years, and it's like a fight to the death. And,
do you have lobbyists?
Right,
do you have lobbyists that actually rule the day, as in the healthcare providers?
No, I mean you got David Cameron, who's head of the Tory party, and he's running for election, and he's saying he loves the National Health Service. And one of his members keeps going on Fox News saying that who's a very extreme right winger, and is saying he hates the health service, but the lead being taken from Cameron is that the health service is great because the people love it.
Right.
The people have 70%. Constantly, no matter what's happening, the people think the idea of everyone being able to get healthcare is a great idea. Duh.
Yeah, it seems so ridiculously simple.
It's like how hard you had to fight to get rid of slavery.
Right.
People sat down, these people with vested interests, and came up with reasons why getting rid of slavery was the wrong idea.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. It makes the head spin and then allows you to go on stage and have a little fun, though.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about it, yeah.
In fact, when I was in Canada this past weekend, while I was there, they announced that Barack had won the Nobel Peace Prize. And I suggested he won by simply traveling the world saying, sorry, I'm sorry. That's all it took. There was no actual peace being created. It was just apologizing for the last 8 years.
Well, I felt that the best way to look at it is it's a Nobel Peace Prize to America for having finished the story of slavery. You finished it if you've elected a black president. It's not all done and dusted. It should never be forgotten. But it's come to a place that's the end point. And is it Michelle Obama's going back in her history and they just recently, it was announced a couple of days ago, and tracing it back to a point where her great grandmother and there was a slave owner and they had a child together, and as slave owners used to do with people they owned.
Sure.
But her history's there, and it's perfect with Barack Obama because his father's from Kenya, so very present Africa.
Right.
And his mother's from Kansas, which is so
middle heartland.
Yeah, so heartland America.
Right.
That's perfect. Anyway, he's still got stuff to do, and obviously people are...
Yeah, like figure out how to bring in socialized medicine.
Yeah. Along with...
How's this for a transition? Well, it doesn't really matter where I go from here. It's
anyway.
It's going to be as clunky.
So chickens, could they rule the world? Answers on a postcard.
Well, you mentioned the path of the righteous. You can't go from the street performer and look at the roadmap for the transvestite comedian. So I'm actually curious about that transition because I saw clips in the documentary where you're doing stand-up in what would otherwise be called men's clothing.
Yeah.
And so I want to know, the inner struggle is a personal thing. You can discuss that however you want. But from a performer's standpoint, in terms of coming to grips with promoters, coming to grips with all the people who are going to stand in the way of saying, yeah, you don't want to do that. Yeah, you don't want to do that. And leading up to the very first time you did, that's fascinating to me.
Yeah. Well, that was That was, I told everyone when I was 23 that I knew, except my dad, and that I was advised that maybe my dad would find it too hard to take, and I thought, no, he won't. I thought, I can't get further without telling my dad.
Right.
And I waited until my career was moving up, and then I thought, I'll tell the press now. In about 1991, I told a journalist at the Observer newspaper, a big newspaper, so that was obviously going to get picked up, so I thought, okay, the information's out there.
Right.
And I told my dad after a football match, which was kind of a strange place to tell him, but he was very cool about it. So I started talking about it. I told him on a Saturday, and I made my first joke about it on the Monday, which was the one that's in the documentary.
Yeah.
If you saw it, I'd say, you know, if you're actually an ethnic minority, or if you're a minority of any kind of woman, or someone from a low-income background as opposed to a rich person, these are things you can use as material. You can rail against them. You can have a perspective on it. But if you're white male middle class, it's useless.
Yes.
Thank God I'm a transvestite.
Right.
That gives me an angle, and so that was my first joke, which people all laughed at, and then they just carried on thinking I was making a joke. So I was talking about it, and journalists were saying, "He's joking about it. What is this? Is this real?" And I said, "Okay, I'll wear a dress and makeup." And they said, "Okay, he's wearing a dress. He looks a mess." So then I said,
but even
okay.
that transition, because the first instinct of your average audience is waiting for the bit, which is he's, you know, comedically in drag. And that wasn't the bit.
No, because they knew I was doing the stuff, and I just did exactly the same stuff. So I was talking about Doctor Who, Daleks,
right?
But just wearing a dress and doing it.
So the transition for you was, I'm going to leak this through the press, let them know this is who I am, then I'm going to go on stage and do my act and let them catch up.
Well, it was initially leak it through and then see what happens.
Right.
And then got the journalistic view back was, what is it? Is this a joke? I thought, okay, I'm going to have to push it further. And also, I don't want to be restricted from that, so I started wearing makeup and a dress. And the audience, so I did jokes about being a transvestite wearing a dress, and then the audience was still laughing. Okay, good. Then I had to do stuff about Daleks or Darth Vader or Romans or whatever. And if they still laughed, I thought, well, then my career has not gone down the toilet. This was the point. It was right on a knife edge, but I couldn't feel like I could go any further forward without getting this thing out.
Right.
And it was, you know, I'd been out for 6 years, and I just thought, I want to get it out there publicly, so I'm never hiding.
Right.
And I just saw a documentary last night, I think it was on HBO, about Republican, particularly Republican politicians who are gay and refuse to come out, or gay or lesbian, usually gay, who refuse to come out and have a very strong voting record against gay rights.
Well, that makes sense.
Well, yeah, this bizarre thing, and well, it's because they
repressed conservatives. I'm sorry, this is a bizarre concept.
I know. Well, one of the guys was who pointing it out, who was a gay activist, and he was saying when he was a kid, he used to be called gay, and to prove he wasn't gay, he would join the kids who were going around beating up other gay kids. You know, so that's what the
something about protesting too much, I think.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was my thing. I once I'd put it out there, and then once they were laughing and I was still wearing makeup and whatever, then I thought, okay, I can deal with this and keep moving it. And then journalists said, okay, so it's still funny, but he looks like Richard III. And I'm going, what? No, got to change what I'm wearing and then try and get a look together.
You thought it was a wardrobe malfunction.
Well, it was, they just keep moving the thing on. And, it's a fair comment, so I had to try and get that together. And then I had to get over to America and land at the same time. So that was a weird thing. I was arriving in America, playing New York, doing material and saying, and by the way, I'm a transvestite, which was a weird land. And when I played the gigs in French, and when I played Paris and do tous les spectacles en français, c'est très difficile, because that's also in there. But I was wearing makeup as well, so I slightly de-girlified it. I was in trousers and a jacket rather than trousers and a shirt rather than a skirt, and I wore makeup, and then it wasn't too much. And I really think it's just too much. I'm landing too many things. I'm going to do stand-up. You don't really do stand-up at the moment in France.
Well, so for you, but it was was there a process of all this stuff just happened to be going on at the same time in terms of your diversifying your hometown and then conquering America and off to France as well?
Well, they're sort of higgledy-piggledy. They're all higgledy-piggledy. I've mentioned
Put
this.
it in Larry King terms.
I don't know what Larry King did.
I don't know what higgledy-piggledy
What you could do is just say Butte, Montana, you're on the line. But it's like in pool, you put balls over pockets and then you leave them there.
Yeah.
Is this right? That's what I was doing. Like the French gigs and the German gigs and the Russian gigs I want to do are there, and I tell people that I'm doing them, but I haven't. I've done the French ones and I haven't broken through in Paris yet, and then I have to break through in Berlin and then Moscow. And I have to learn more German and the entire Russian language.
Oh, God.
Well, not all of it, just the bits I need to use. But it's doable, because you see, there's no one in Russia who can't speak Russian. Have you noticed that? No one in France can't speak French. No one in America can't speak English.
Right.
Well, actually, that's because of Spanish and thing. But, you know, in indigenous countries, it's not that hard to learn a language. Otherwise, there'd be kids, this kid doesn't even speak the language. He just points at things.
Right.
You know? But not everyone's a stand-up comedian in Russia. Not everyone's a stand-up comedian in Germany. Therefore, the easiest one is to learn the language.
Yes.
And you don't have to be fluent in everything. You just learn the phrases of what you're going to use, and then just put your stand-up in it. And as long as it's universal, as opposed to very specifically...
you can downplay it as much as you want, sir. It's a little more ridiculously impressive than you're letting on. To learn a language of one's
It's scary.
act.
It's the most scary thing I've done.
I mean, yeah, God. Have you seen Inglourious Bastards?
I haven't seen Inglourious Bastards yet.
Okay. Did you meet with him on that, by the way? Because the guy who's getting everyone's attention, you speak 3 of the 4 languages that are needed.
Oh, right.
And because Quentin talked, there's this character, he was apparently a 3rd lead in a German sitcom that's now conquering the acting world, who plays the great Jew hunter.
Right. Yes, no, I think I heard about it. No,
Well, Quentin was saying, and we have an expert here, Sam Levine, who's in the film, 2 weeks before shooting hadn't yet found this actor, and he commented when he was doing Elvis Mitchell's interview show on NPR that he was going to have to shut down production because he realized he had written an impossible role of the Jew hunter who speaks beautifully in these 4 languages and flowing and easily.
Actually, I don't. I speak cack-handedly in these.
But you're saying you're conquering your own routines in a language that you're just learning?
I know, but it's the equivalent of a French guy coming here and going, so I was in a supermarket and I had, it's not broken, but it's, the accent is still quite strong and the the vocabulary is somewhat fractured. I'm conversational in French, so I can faire une conversation and faire un spectacle pas un grand problème. You know, people say, oh, that you wouldn't say that sentence like that. You're saying, but you know, that can get an extra bit of laughter out of it. But then the German is still very survival German. You know, cars for airports and if you've got a room, please, and can I have another beer, please. And my Russian is nothing. But it's very interesting because it's you know, it just pushes the fear boundary back. If you can do it in French, then surely English.
But has this been done before? I mean, this sounds...
Spanish stand-ups in America do it all the time. They do it in Spanish and English. Maybe they've grown up with Spanish and English. But for a learnt second language, I don't know, it's difficult to compare because if people from other countries come and talk to you and do entire interviews or even political interviews in the English, we don't actually doff our hats to them at all. We don't go, my God, this Frenchman's just done a whole conversation and a political thing about that. We just go, thank you and good luck to you.
Well, I would always chalk it up to the American ego as well. But you're right, it is true.
That should be amazing. But yeah, I just like doing those things because.
No, I was tweeting that you were going to be here, and I instantly got. From a small group of German fans who happened to, I guess, be following, or they're obviously following you actually, because I mentioned your name at Eddie Izzard, so that's why they caught it. And they immediately tweeted me saying, is he really going to come to Germany and do a show in German? When is that happening?
It's at the Quatsch Comedy Club, which is in Friedrichstrasse.
They named it in the tweet, the name of the club.
It's the Rubbish Comedy Club, and it's run by Thomas Hermans, and I've talked to him 6 years ago about playing, and I still haven't got there because... well, it's like this run. I planned to do a lot of runs, and then some marathons, and then I suddenly went and did 43 marathons, and finally people said, oh yeah, he said he was going to do, well, certain people knew I was going to do that, and so I went and did that. But I have these plans, like balls on the pool table, and they sit there.
What was the name of that, the balls on the pool table?
Well, I don't play pool.
Pickety, what was it?
Well, isn't it a thing with who plays pool? In the thing that you get spots or stripes, and you try and get one of your balls over a pocket, but you leave it there.
Yeah.
That way it's blocked to anyone else. If anyone else hits it, you're going to go in.
That's right.
And then you carry on trying to block up the other ones.
Oh, sure.
And
I know the tactic.
That tactic. So that's what I'm kind of doing. It's not really blocking it, but I have these...
You're setting up the easy shots, we call it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've just set up, you know, like Paris is there. I will go and I will... The Just pour rire, the Just for Laughs people. Right. Gilbert Rozon, who runs that, I told him over years, I want to play this place. He has management there, and they run, you know, a number of comedians who are now doing stand-up. They used to do a different type of show. So he will help me when I go back in there.
Right.
I've just got to clear out 2 to 3 months.
Right.
But I'm also trying to do another drama series here. And it's all the strategic thing of trying to get everything done and clear out 2 or 3 months. I need 2 months in Paris, probably 3 months in Germany.
I just realized why you're talking so fast here.
Why?
Because you've got all these other things to attend to.
Well, it's it's
no, you know what? It's what happens when you get to this particular level, which is the reason for this film, quite frankly, and why I would encourage anyone who's not just a fan of yours, but a fan of the art form in general. Because the life story is, I know you don't want to hear it, but it's utterly fascinating. But I don't want to steer clear from the transition, because you know, you may not have needed courage to get on stage to do stand-up because you'd done so much performance in the street. But whatever courage you had to share with your family and friends that you were a transvestite, to take that on stage is a different thing. So I would just like, if you don't mind, hear about the first couple of times, the thoughts as you're backstage about to go on, or the thoughts maybe after the first time. Was there a moment of, yeah, maybe I don't need to share this, or, you know what, it went just well enough so that I've got all the validation I need? Or was there a sense of, as you had just touched on, so I guess I want you to open it up a little bit more, which I find absolutely riveting in terms of the human journey.
Right.
This is who I am. I've got no more reason to go on stage and do my act anymore unless this part of me comes to.
Yeah, it's that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way that, barring everyone in the audience saying, whoop, they're not going to laugh at another second, because I had spent ages trying to get off the ground in stand-up or in anything comedic.
Sure.
Barring an entire lockdown of the audience, even if there was a sense of the thing, I felt I could work it up to something, or I wasn't even thinking that far.
Right.
But it was, this is coming out now, and I should be, I said to my dad, if I can talk about this, because initially talking about it, you're going, and you know,
sure.
and there's a girly part of me, and I don't know where, you know, and it's all over the place because you haven't talked about it to anyone.
Not only that, but you're educating from zero for most people.
Well, that's the thing. But when you first tell anyone about it, you see, it comes out in this jumble of words and,
right.
you know, the first revelation kind of thing, because you've never told anyone. And I thought, if I go on stage and talk about it, I'll get really offhand and really kind of, so I'm a transvestite. And that's what I say now. I say, I'm a transvestite. And everyone wants to be now. Everyone wants to be a transvestite. And you can't, you know, you can't
right.
learn it. You can't go a course. You know, you are or you're not. It's a gift.
And just because you're a vampire doesn't mean you're a transvestite.
Yeah, it's
right.
a gift, man, you know. And, you know, some of us are just lucky. And
right.
we're transvestite, you know, and that's how it goes. And I like putting it that place.
Right.
And then I haven't worn a dress for some time, so I go on television shows and they go,
"Where's the dress?"
Yeah, and they go, "Well, I am," and they say, "I don't think you are," and I go, "Yes, I am." So I have this.
You're recovering.
No, but it's this inverse thing where you're trying to beg and persuade people that you are a transvestite, which is not what you expected
right.
the thing to be.
I am, goddammit.
So, and then I've had arguments with someone on Twitter as well. But
well, in terms of the meeting an audience from a place of zero information, I didn't necessarily mean they didn't know that you were a transvestite. They don't know anything about it, about what it means to be a transvestite. So the idea of going on stage and wasting or spending any time explaining...
Oh, you shouldn't. I always,
yeah.
I felt gut like you don't go and explain if you fancy blondes as opposed to brunettes. So you don't do that. You
right.
you just go on and say, the best thing is to go on and not talk about it.
Well, that's
what I developed.
Yeah, that's where
talk
you
about it as a
got
diagonal.
to.
Yeah.
And whatever portion of the audience was still playing catch-up happened in their own time, whether it was their friends saying, "I told you, you idiot," or whatever it is. But initially, I think there's more behind it in terms of when George Carlin talked about going on Ed Sullivan and doing bits that were otherwise square to his way of thinking. And the day that he stopped doing that, that felt in that same similarity, that he had to be true to his point of view, if you will.
Yeah.
So that's how it felt for me.
Yes, it's kind of like that, although my sense of... I mean, Lenny Bruce had probably a similar thing as well, where he pulled out of doing that straight stuff. My stuff was already there. I just had to add a thing in to an audience that was social progressives.
That's true.
And I didn't feel
you already,
they were kind of duty bound to stay with me.
Yeah, if you're alternative, then you shouldn't.
Exactly. We had a distinct alternative audience.
Right.
Like alternative music and alternative films do have here, but in America there never has been the great separation.
Right.
I don't know whether it's still the same, where there's a more...
Well, alternative music, or what was considered indie rock a few years ago, is already becoming pop. So that's an interesting transition or realization.
Yeah, I know that music can get well, it gets weird when they got camp rock and Disney are doing things where rock and roll has become a thing you can go and camp, and it's like weird. Where's that gone from its initial place? But if you play in the clubs, will there be a racist comedian come on and do stuff, and with a sexist, or would that actually not happen in your mainstream?
In Los Angeles, for example, where we saw you the last time, Largo at the Coronet, our dear friend Flanagan, I finally played the place last week and had a ball. But Jamie and I came and saw you there. Was that your last time through? It was just.
It could well have been. I can't. But I played it so many times.
Right. But that has always, the Largo and a few other places, UCB Theater, there are what have been considered alternative rooms, and they exist in New York as well. And you're not going to find the racist or what used to be mother-in-law type of comedian.
Well, the mother-in-law doesn't really matter, but there is the racist and sexist are saying women were, I think Andrew Dice Clay, I mean, he's back touring now, but he did very sexist, I don't know whether it's racist, but it was very anti-women, and women were in there, some women were in there, obviously not all women. But that slightly separated out, even though if you go late night at the comedy store in London, you would get stuff that could go to that place or be borderline that place. But generally, it was sort of moved out, and there's a circuit of people who go around and do
just that
racist and sexist stuff.
Now they're
still in Britain.
They're the minority. They're on the fringe.
Well, they make good money. They make good money, but they're not put on television unless they're going to shut that bit up. It's sort of played down rather, but. Most of them will not really be on television, but they can make good money from. Some people want to roll up and hear racist stuff.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Well, I appreciate you talking about that, because I felt like when I would see a special of yours, which is how in the States we came to know initially, it not only spoke to this is who I am. This is a part of my life that, yes, comes with me on stage, the same way that I would bring everything else that I am on stage. But there was this connection that I was watching as an audience member between you and your audience that supported not only the individual on stage and his very unique point of view, but a celebration of this person that the audience feels close to, that they somehow know. And that was a barrier that I think only and you're not comfortable with compliments, but only the great ones reach with their audience. And I don't mean doing universal material. Can you believe when you pull the toilet paper out that everyone can relate to? I mean,
well, it doesn't have to be toilet paper.
How an audience relates to you, even though we have nothing in common at all.
Right.
And that's an unbelievably unique plateau.
Well, if you think of it, street performing, you see, is an interesting thing, because the world turns up in a street performing place, and I wasn't really doing verbal material; it was all physical situation comedy.
That's right.
But you do actually, we've had wars over difference in skin color, difference in political this, that, and the other, and whatever it is. We are so similar. If alien monsters did come down from another planet, we'd suddenly go, let's stick with the humans against the guys with the teeth that come out. And we'd suddenly find we're so similar. We are 90, and if chimpanzees have a similar DNA to us, and we have exactly the same DNA, and, when talk about universal material, you can do toilet paper, or you can do the Romans. So what were they going on about? Or Christianity, where's it? Do they all believe in Chris? Mm-hmm. And... and just talk about religions, and why do we look for religions, and why do we have to, this thing that Dawkins' book about saying, why do we have to prove that he isn't there? Why shouldn't he prove that he is there?
Right. Oh, I got a lot of that, by the way. I was tweeting about you coming on the show, and somebody said something about being an atheist, and why do you suppose British or seems to be popular among British comics to be atheists? And I said probably something to do with intellect.
No, I think it's to do with the fact because I was actually on these marathons. I was running. A vicar turned up to run with me, and and he kept getting green lights to happen. So I thought maybe that's what God does. So and we were joking about it, but I was I think there's a lot of religious people who are the moderate religious people who are very positive and can help people, and that's great. I just don't believe in an organized God upstairs. A disorganized God, I could probably believe in. A guy with lots of paper everywhere going, I don't know. Tsunami? I didn't know that was supposed to.
Yeah.
Who pressed the tsunami button? Gee.
Yeah. I used to
Jesus
rationalize it. I used to rationalize it with the who pressed tsunami. Who am I not paying?
Yeah.
That the tsunami got out. I used to rationalize somehow with it was all set up, if it was possible that there was a supreme being, that it was all sort of set up, and he said, all right, you're on your own, I'm on holiday now.
Well, that could be, but he would pop back to say, what?
I didn't, this wasn't at all the plan. Yeah, there'd be a lot of that.
See, I said he wouldn't create the Earth in 6 days. He'd just do it in one go. Why take such a long time? Just go, I think you'd say something like Shazam, is what I think you'd say. Because then you can also get the actual music for that, because Shazam is an application for the iPhone that tells you what music is playing. But no, it's just, I've decided if he's going to keep Hitler alive and my mother's going to die, that there isn't anyone.
There's no he.
There's just us. There's us, and I believe in us. I think we've got a lot of goodwill out there.
Yeah, I even find that level of thinking even more exciting, by the way. Instead of relying on some supreme being to look after us, the fact that we're actually looking after each other, and we've evolved to this place with...
brilliant.
It's absolutely
They've got 6.5 billion people. Unfortunately, 2 billion of them are on a couple of dollars a day or less, so obviously they can't have a lot of extra spare goodwill and strength because they're just struggling to survive. But I think there's more goodwill in this world than there is ill will, and we should. That's why we're moving forward. If you take it from the Egyptians to ancient Egyptians up to now, or from 10,000 years ago when we started farming to now, we're moving up. We go a few steps forward, one step back, but you know.
You made a reference somewhere in the documentary, I think, where he said about playing Germany or the Germans in general, and saying, you know, here's this group of people that, you know, they're very caring and whatnot. They just had this gangster come in and take over.
Yeah, well, I was saying when I was doing Valkyrie, Chris McQuarrie's last film that he wrote, and I was there and saying, I articulated this thing that Hitler kidnapped a country.
Right.
If you look at Germany beforehand, then there was, you know, in the upper echelons, there was a militaristic thing going on, but there was a militaristic thing going on in France and in Britain and in Russia, and all of that nobility had, come on, let's go and have a war, that's what we do, and, you know, and
we don't do that
increase
in the States, that's crazy talk.
But, you know, but that was a thing going on, and, you know, Germany wasn't naturally Nazi, is my point.
Right.
And then a guy comes in and he kidnaps the country and the levers of government and says, if you're going to disagree, even before you disagree, I'm going to send in the SA, the stormtroopers, and they're going to hang you. They're just going to, you know, shoot your face. You know, they did that beforehand. And then he says, after about 1942, he said, I just want people to disappear in France. If anyone stands up and says anything, just remove them in the middle of the night. Don't even tell them. I want them to disappear like night and fog. This is a Hitler invention.
Yeah.
I want them to disappear like night and fog. And all those South American dictators, they picked up on that, and people, they disappeared, they're missing. That came from Hitler. And that's a disgusting thing. This is a gangster, a criminal gangster, a twisted sociopath, and he gets in there, and he's putting forward some stuff like, this is all for Germany, and we'll you know, we're going to do really well. So a lot of people are thinking, well, we have had a hard time, so if it's going to be good for Germany, then I'm kind of into it. And they either bought into it because they were totally into it, or they thought, well, we better join it because it's, you know, if not, we're saying poo on the country, and the country's had a tough time. Or if not, you know, they were going off to concentration camps and disappearing.
Yeah, it was hard to imagine that he was actually instilling hope in his own people, but that's in fact what was taking place for a great many of them, if not the majority.
Yeah, he just said, I'm not going to pay Versailles back anymore, we're going to move into the Rhineland, the Saar.
Yeah, and he didn't tell them at the outset, you know, here's a plan, I'm going to save the economy, everything's going to be fine, and we're going to kill all the Jews. Any questions?
Well,
that wasn't actually
He
shared.
sort of did. That's the trouble. In my case, he was saying this. I don't know if he was saying we're going to set up camps and do all that, but he was.
That's all I meant.
He was saying very heavy duty stuff that
the Supreme.
But no one thought this idiot would get. Well, he's not an idiot. He wasn't an idiot.
No.
He was a clever person, and so was what's his face, Goebbels. Goebbels was very intelligent and smart. They're very cunning.
There's no way to kidnap a country unless there's a supreme.
Goering was more of a buffoon. Himmler, you know, it was probably those two, probably Goebbels and Hitler. But
you wanted to be an actor at a very young age.
Yeah.
Like me, I think you got sidetracked with the performing live, but there was always this thing inside you that
Well, I actually wasn't getting the roles,
Exactly.
at 11, 12.
There's
I just
no
wasn't getting.
opportunities,
My
damn it.
agent
Right.
sucked and it didn't exist.
Right.
But at school, I just wasn't getting the roles. And then I discovered Python and I liked comedy, and I thought, well, I'll transfer into this and it'll...
Yeah, I started doing impersonations and stuff at such a young age and getting all this attention. I thought, well, this is easy, I'll do this.
Yeah.
Because no one's paying attention to this other stuff I want to do.
Yeah.
And we just get sidetracked. But the acting thing was always inside of you in terms of what you wanted to...
Yeah, from the age of 7, not before 7, but
Right.
I saw this thing at 7, and then it was that, and it stayed that. Even though I went into comedy, it stayed that. And well, there was this puberty thing, which I talked about. Puberty, the hormonal changes, greasy hair, and acne and stuff. And I just thought, I'm not going to play a lead role because I don't know what I'm looking like anymore. And I never even thought about what I was looking like. Now I had to comb hair or try and wash hair, and and there were no girls at school. And I just thought, this is not an attractive person. I don't seem to be a leading guy. And there were some really good-looking guys, so they must be the leads. And that's it. I'm just out of it. I'll go to comedy, and then I could do a weird version of it. I could do Darling, and that kind of just the comedy version of it. And then that didn't go anywhere for another 20 years. So when it eventually took off, I thought, I'm going to push both out now. I'm going to do both at the same time.
Right.
That was my thing.
Right. And, I mean, the work that you've done in a dramatic sense as a dramatic actor, I mean, the opportunity, when they come, it I imagine steals your heart to the point where do you find yourself separating from what was the mothership of performing live, or are you doing both at the same time?
Well, in 1993, I got a separate agent in drama in London, separate to my comedy manager. So I said, I just want to go up for dramatic roles. So anything that I filmed or did in theatre was supposed to be drama if I could possibly help it.
Right. Like when you did the Mammoth play, for example.
Yep, David Mamet played Crypto Ground. That was my first play in the West End, and then I did Day and the Death of Joe Egg, which has laughs in, but
yeah, that.
But I'm trying to kill my daughter at the same time.
Right.
So it was. I was trying to shoot the comedy in the head kind of thing for this medium, and just without going to drama school, try and pick up my dramatic skills. And it's and it's been sort of hit and miss, and sometimes I've been all over the place, but. I'm happy to take that humiliation to come out the other end, because I couldn't do stand-up to start off with, and I sort of mentioned it in the documentary. I couldn't do street performing to start off with, and I couldn't do stand-up to start off with, and I couldn't do dramatic. I wasn't in there. I wasn't in the moment. I was thinking, oh, what do I do here? I was trying to think of what is my technique on this, and rather than a young actor who's just gone into film or drama, might just do it, just channel it and do it, and not get bogged down by technique. And I was trying to think, I need to have technique. I haven't been trained. So that got in my way initially. And now I'm ready to go. Now I feel I've done enough, I've been through enough. Just to get, with cameras, just to get the hang of cameras and the thing, and someone saying, oh, lock it down, but okay, hit your mark. Just to get casual.
Well, let me ask you about that. How are you on take 17? What's going through your mind versus take 1 through 3?
Well, if it gets, it depends what information is coming back to you for the director. If it's just going on and extra takes and you don't know where it's going, then I suppose I can decide that, well, this is not, I think I've done what I think I can do here. And
I hear myself acting after take 3.
Really?
It's so hard for me to be in the moment. It really is. I can mix it up and change it up by doing that, but if I'm working with a director who wants me to just repeat the same thing over and over, it just doesn't happen.
If the signals are coming in strangely, then I don't know where that's going. So I don't really know what to do with take 17. If it takes 40 or whatever. Yeah. But if I know, if we're in sync with the director, then. And they can say, I like what you did there, and they go, yeah, I like what I did there, because they are my audience. That's the weird thing for people who perform live.
Right.
We suddenly lost this, especially for comedy. You get that thing of, oh, they're reacting to that. Oh, I like that. They're reacting, and that's the motherload of, this is a whole new, and they're already reacting, and you get instant script editor from the audience.
You're editing live.
Yeah, and then in drama, it isn't there, and no one is reacting, and you have to just feel whether it is going in the right place. And to get that tabulation right within myself has been tricky.
You depend on the director 100% for that.
Yeah, and in the end, you can't depend on the director. Like in television, they're going so fast. And The Riches, there were some things I thought, God, I think I did that. And I look back at the scene later and I go, what was I doing? I thought I had that scene. That I seemed to be
Yeah.
a mess there.
And the
other
TV
times it
director-
would come out, and I couldn't. And TV directors are on a different,
almost different every week.
Yeah, and they're under different pressures, and sometimes they've got so much going on. We're moving at such a speed that they're looking for the whole shape of it, and they will let you get on with it. So I really, it's just me. Like in stand-up, I can really sense. I think that's good,
Right.
even though I feel I've done a great gig, and people say, "Well, you went on a bit," and I don't know, did I? But I think I can tell. You know, it's not a perfect science for either dramatic actor or someone doing comedy. But for me, I found the technique got in the way. And they say in drama that people like props. You know, actors like props. I hated props.
Because you have to repeat. That's the thing that I hate about props.
Well,
I have to pick up the cup at the exact same.
Yes, there's that thing.
'Cause I'm
And
always thinking about the editor. Fuck, I can't match this.
that whole thing with Brando and the glove, and you know, I'm going. Yeah, you picked up a glove and put it on. I don't know, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe no one had done the glove thing at that point. No.
There is something about props. I remember watching Nicholson eat pizza in, actually it was pasta in Prizzi's honor, and he was devouring it. And you know what it's like to eat while you're shooting.
Yeah.
You end up taking really tiny bites because you know you're going to have to eat Thanksgiving for 3 days. Sorry, bad reference. But you foreigner, you.
No, I know what Thanksgiving is.
Yeah.
It's where you get monkeys and say,
shave their tails.
Thanks, people, for they bring you soda and.
But I mean, you know, so I saw Nicholson devour this bowl of pasta with just sheer joy and celebration of eating, and I'm thinking he knows he has to do more takes, doesn't he? And of course, he's playing at a different level, and it's.
Well, it could have been he's just hungry and he thought, I'll just channel
That's
my
the
hunger
take.
into it. And
That's the take that they use.
I'll eat sort of
When
4
he
or 5
was-
bowls of this and then I'll say I'm done. Or they just keep going on it. But if you've seen him in the horror, Jack Nicholson in the horror, very early one, and he's not doing any of the Jack Nicholson stuff. There's nothing. Is
that a Roger Corman?
Yeah.
That early?
Yeah, and if you look at that, it's a completely different Jack Nicholson who is not the one that's breaking through as in Easy Rider. And it's interesting to see his liberation to open up, because there's a certain thing I found in drama that if I dramatically, if the camera's, if it's just a me scene, I can go off in places and I can dramatically, you know, as opposed to comedically, ad lib or move things around the dialogue. Without trying to go outside the remit, you know, of the scene.
Context,
But if you're with another person, it can be tougher unless they're totally up for it to feel your way around it and use improv. So but I found it tougher, and it's got easier and easier and easier. You know, I know this is me. I'm just good. I'm better if I just take a long run up at it. You know.
Yeah.
Some people are instantly brilliant, and I'm the fine wine. I call it the fine wine approach to doing anything creatively.
Well, but you're also not only self-medicating, but self-teaching along the way.
Well, that's what I think most of us. Well, in drama you can be taught, but comedy is weird. I don't think any of us. We just in stand-up, just people in the clubs would go, "Yeah, that's funny, that bit," or they might even not say that. You just know that they were out there, or you hear them laughing. You know that when you used to be playing the clubs and you did a bit you liked, and you could hear one of the stand-ups laughing.
Just one. That's all it took.
Yeah, and you knew that was good.
I have completely ignored our live viewers. If you don't mind, they offer up questions. Can we get you some more?
Water.
Yeah, right here. Look at this. It's actually vodka, so I hope that's not a problem.
Excellent.
So we have our live audience, and every show until now, I've included them, and I must do so. His Twitter profile says, "Thinks like an American." This comes from @May_gun. Can he elaborate on that?
Yes.
Thinks like an American.
Well, it says, I say I'm a British European, which I think is a key point, because you have Italian Americans, African Americans.
Don't forget the Australians.
Asian Americans. Well, no, but that thing of being both, you can be of Italian extraction in America and be an American, you can be Asian American. And in Europe, we are just getting that sense. And I pushed to encourage people who are inspired by the idea of learning to work together in the European Union, of being French, Francais, Europeans, or Deutsche Europeans or British Europeans. You can be both. You can support your team and your national team. You can. I can support Crystal Palace football team and England football team. You can do both.
Yeah.
It doesn't. They're different sizes. So I said I'm British European. I think like an American, and I was born in an Arabic country, and I wanted to get that in because being born in Yemen
right.
gives me this weird thing, and I'd love to do a gig in Arabic eventually. But the think like an American, I could have changed it because I was arguing on Twitter. What does that mean? I was saying, well, I think it means I think like an economic migrant. Like the Americans that came to America from overseas, who came in and were going to work like crazy, who were going to think outside the box. So there's a big adventure out there. You're going to take chances, going to take risks, and go for it. Right. That American dream thing, which is actually a world dream of trying to make your situation better for yourself and for your kids, and that's what I link to, which I feel is part of the. If it's not in the DNA of America, it's at least in the cultural DNA of America. The idea, if you push it, if you try it can work. Work hard, think outside the box, keep moving it around. Right. And so that I do very much link in with America. I would have been here in the 1700s, 1800s. I would have been on that boat. I would have definitely been on the boat.
Well, no, of course. All the alternative rooms were here.
Well, but seriously, from the drive thing, I would have said,
speaking,
I'm leaving the aristocracy and all these guys here and all this glass ceiling that we got here, wooden ceiling it was, rock ceiling.
Please.
And I'm going to come over on the boat and I'll try the American thing. So I do identify with America. I identify with America of the Barack Obama and everyone who voted for him and that kind of America. I identify with America that landed on the moon, which I can prove as well. Have you heard my proof of this? I don't know.
Please,
I keep going around telling.
No.
So, America on the moon, people say, oh, they didn't. It was, they landed, it was like a Capricorn 1 and they were local and sending out signals.
A group of people.
So,
probably a large one.
I can prove this, I think, by just pure logic. I do want to prove this because I was very inspired by it, but I think I can prove it just by pure, simple logic. First, and I'll ask you a series of questions here. First country out of Russia and America to put a satellite in space was?
Russia.
First man in space was?
Russia.
First woman in space was also Russia. You may not know that. First spacewalk was also Russia. First orbit around the Earth.
First spacewalk?
Yeah. First.
You mean outside the ship?
EVA, extra vehicle.
Outside the ship.
Yeah. You get out and do it on the thing. That was a Russian thing. The first to do that. And first orbit around the Earth was Russian. First landing on the moon, American. Did Russia and America get on?
No.
No, really did hate each other. No sort of, oh, well, we actually get on really.
Oh, no.
No, they really didn't get on. Totally different thing. Yeah. Don't you think the Russians were a bit pissed off about that?
Very much so.
America landed 6 times on the moon, and then one time where they didn't get there and Apollo 13 came back. Right. Don't you think at any point, if this is all coming from the Earth, the one country in the world that could have proven that, just by having their equipment and their satellites that they were sending out, was Russia?
Right.
Wouldn't it have been the biggest coup in the world to say,
this is horseshit.
We've just let you go, we've got come, scientists of the world, come, check our equipment, check our signals. It's coming from, Arizona, this is the rubbish.
The Russians.
The Russians, of course, they are liars and we are kings, and it would have been such a coup, such a perfect coup. They never, ever said it. Right. Ever once. There's not even a think of it, and no one even mentions that point. It's just so bloody obvious.
How did you stumble across this ridiculous genius?
Well, because I just do things through, and yes. I am a transvestite with a career, so you have to think
things through
many different things. But I can't see a hole in that logic.
There is no hole in that.
And someone said to me, "Oh, the Americans pay the Russians." No, I don't
No. There was no conversations about banking
6 times.
even. No.
6 times. And one time when they say, that time you were up there and they were having trouble and coming back and all those signals, that's coming from Arizona as well. They just,
Right. No, the Russians would have absolutely, they wouldn't have made it to the press conference. They would have been so excited to bust us.
Yeah, they would have. They're landing on the moon just after Neil Armstrong said one small step for man. No, it's not. Beautiful. It was a coup, and that was Khrushchev. Was it running the gig? It was the guy with Kennedy. Was it Khrushchev? I think it was.
Let's say yes.
And he was was it Khrushchev? Anyone else? Yeah. And he was big into, he was a smaller guy, real sort of stocky guy, and he was good with the press, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and he was the one who was going head to head with Kennedy at the beginning of the 60s, and he would have loved it.
Oh, celebrated.
It doesn't make any sense. I can see no angle. And someone, I'm sure, can think about it and come up with an angle or whatever. But
well, the only angle they could possibly fill is the one you already covered, which is that we were in cahoots, and you only need to know that that was an impossibility.
Yeah, it's just, please, if they're in cahoots, then everything we've ever seen on television, everything we've ever seen in life is just rubbish. And
now is this discussed in the new special that debuts in the beginning of November?
I don't know what the one that I'm touring around. It is a show that I did last year, the 34 cities I played last year. I'm coming back to play it in arenas, in Madison Square Garden and the Nokia here, which I call the Nokia. But it's that show, it's that strip show. It's called Strip 2, like Strip TOO. The big intimacy tour, because I'm playing. Because people say you lose intimacy when you play arenas.
So you're going for big intimacy.
Yeah, because I'm refused to let the rock and roll kids all go out there and play the arenas and the stadiums, and no one gives a monkeys. And I'm saying, well, we've got to go. The only way we can get good at playing them is to get in there, use the screens, and get good at playing those places and get it relaxed. Obama, when he was doing those gigs to 100,000 people, he got everyone to come into that shop, and they all got it. They all go. Couldn't really see him. I got a bit bored after. It was you got to get that working on. You don't.
The same way that Kennedy introduced how to use the television camera, I think was finally realized with Obama. I agree.
And you need to practice it. And like Beatles Shea Stadium, bad gig, good event. No, couldn't hear a thing. Just
lots of screaming. Yeah.
Then you've got say Zeppelin playing and all the other bands playing in the 70s playing Madison Square Garden. You could hear it now. Got good speakers. Couldn't see anything, just dots moving around.
Right.
And now they've got the screens and stuff, and everyone's working it, and then you've got U2 and how they're playing with it. They keep pushing it and changing it. What can they do? How do you play in a stadium? And you have to practice at it, and you have to push it. And it may not be for everyone, but I just didn't want stand-up to be blocked from that. And there's already, a number of Americans have played, go around playing arenas.
Yeah, but not as focused in a military strike as you clearly are.
Well, I'm sure some of them are, but
but that's the way it works.
I don't have managers saying, and then you got to do this. I'm a nightmare to managers because they say, "What are you doing now?" Well, that's why when I ran around the UK and did all these marathons, and that just threw them.
Well, I wanted to ask a little bit about that before you left, and there's a question that comes here from @FancyGirlSB. How much money did you end up raising this summer during the Marathon of Marathons, which is my phrasing? You did 43 marathons in 51 days?
Yeah.
First of all, congratulations. Seriously and
Thank you.
sincerely. Second of all, at what age did you start running a marathon? Which is there a minimum of 26, what we consider miles?
Yeah, 26.2
makes it
miles.
a marathon.
Yeah,
officially.
I did my first one on the Friday before I set off to do the.
That's not possible. The Friday before you started the 43. Was
yeah,
the first
I had
one?
been training for 5 weeks though.
5 weeks, not 5 years. 5 weeks.
5 weeks.
And no, because you're not Superman.
I am Relentless Man.
You are indeed Relentless Man, and Hitler actually could have learned a thing. But you were a long distance runner ever in your life?
No, when I was a kid, I came fifth in a school run for my year.
And how many kilometers or what have you?
It was probably about 4 or 5 miles.
4 or 5 miles.
But
So
football. I love football. I liked athletics when I was a kid, like running, and then people got serious about it. And if you're serious and trained, then you move forward, and then you just turn up every summer and say, I'm not very good at this. So I backed out of the athletics and the football. I went to a school that didn't play football, soccer in the UK. They play rugby instead, and so boarding schools. And
you're not going to get away from the fact that you started running 26.2 miles a day by gearing up 5 weeks beforehand by recalling some bad footballing days. No,
they were good football. I was good football.
I mean how it didn't work out for you.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because there are lifelong runners who are just natural. They do 5-6 miles a day, and that's just their daily regimen.
There is an American guy who's done 50 marathons, 50 states in 50 days. So he'd already done it. I knew he'd already done it.
Right.
And
but did you also research that he had actually been running long distance for the majority of his life?
Yes, he was.
Right. That's kind of my point, Eddie.
At school, he was running home. But all of us can do it, because if you take... I had this theory, and I think it's true. We were all hunter-gatherers for, say, the 3 million years, because obviously there's, in fact, 4.5 billion years of development from protozoa or whatever it is. But if we take just the hominid bit, that we're, there's a new skeleton they found recently. But anyway, so they say it's 3 million years. And 10,000 years we've been farming.
Right.
So that's 2,990,000 years development of hunter-gathering, which is running to kill your prey, and also running away from tribes or running towards tribes to kill them or to, fight or flight
That was your
stuff.
justification that I can do this?
Well, because it's in our DNA. And remember when you were a kid, most of us when we were kids, we did do a certain amount of running around. I mean, some of us, I did a lot of running around, and then you just stop doing it because you think, well, that's just running around, really.
Did you not start this particular feat, though, in your early to mid-40s without putting a fine number on it?
I'm 47, yeah.
All right, sir.
So, but somebody told me that the 40s...
It's easier to run 26 miles when you're...
Apparently, they are good road running years, 40 to 50.
This makes no sense.
But I've said it to someone else, and it doesn't... They said, no, that could just be made up.
I just did the math, and it doesn't...
No, but you could. If a bear was chasing you, if anyone in this room, if a bear was chasing them every day,
right.
Not very fast bear, obviously a slower bear, but a real killer bear, then you would do it. You would come, maybe in the end you'd give up. But
Right. Well, I'll agree with that. But you also have to understand there was no bear chasing you.
It was a bear market. There was no bear. No, I set it up, and there was a camera team that followed it, that filmed it, and we've raised £250,000.
Okay, to answer the question, that was
£250,000, which is $7 billion.
US. Yes, thank you very much for that.
Since Bush pushed the dollar.
I can't wait for Bush's presidential library with the giant crayons.
The dollar's got back to the 2/3 parity thing.
Yeah.
So,
but okay, so just give me the 5 weeks if that's all I'm going to get out of you.
7.5 weeks.
See what happens when you push? So 7.5, no, that you gearing up.
Oh, they're gearing up to the thing. No,
5 weeks.
Sorry, that was 7.5 weeks of running. The 5 weeks,
you started...
Before that, I was running, I'd run 10 miles, and then the next day I'd say, I'll try running 12 miles or 15. I just kept pushing it. That was before. That was about 3 weeks before that. It was about 3 weeks before the 5. I decided, okay, I think I'm going to do this. And then 5 weeks before the thing, there was a sport relief charity in Britain, which they encourage people who are not sports people to go and do challenges, and raising money for the poorest countries in the world.
And this seemed like a personal challenge, because what I was trying to sort of driving at was not making fun of the notion that anyone could do this and drive that into the ground. It was more about, which I did, it was more about how you go from not a lifelong runner to, oh yeah, I'll do that. I'll do the running thing. Because if someone came to me as a way to raise funds and awareness, and I said, well, what sort of sports challenges are you looking at? And they said, we'd like you to run 26.2 miles a day. I'd say, what else you got?
Yeah.
So, but for you it was, I think I could do one. But I think for you, what you're saying, it sounds like, is they put this at your feet and you said...
No, I came up with it.
Oh, Jesus.
No, I came up with it because no one could say. It wasn't every day. It's 6 days a week and 1 day off a week.
Is that all? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Which actually doesn't really help the 1 day off a week, but I still kept having that 1 day off because apparently your body needs to walk. The Tour de France guys, I think they cycle on their day off just to keep things loose.
So how much did you do on your day off?
I started doing some walking and stuff, and then in the end I actually took the day off.
But did you literally feel your body on that first day off you took saying, no, we got to get back out there?
After about 3 or 4 weeks, it did.
Right.
And
okay, so for 5 weeks you ran how many miles a day? Gearing up to it.
It was different lengths because I started talking to the people from Sport Relief, the charity, and they were linked into Olympian people. And the guy called Greg White advised me, and he said, okay, he had a program, days off, okay, running longer lengths, shorter lengths, but speed work, different things like this. So he gave me a 5 week. Program to
he made a regimen, and then you were able to do it because it was in military terms.
Well, yeah, no, he just put it out on a spreadsheet, and then I could do it.
Right.
It was already it was an adventure, which was fun.
Sure.
It was a challenge. I wanted to be in the military, so it's like, maybe I could have been in the military kind of thing, even though I decided I didn't want to go and kill people unless they were Nazis. So that was going on there. It was a healthy thing because I thought I just want to do an ultimate boot camp as well. It was raising money. It had a number of things going on, and getting to see the people of the UK in a very
It just must have been extraordinary on a daily basis. Was how much of this was documentary? Because that has to be the next
the whole
film.
of it. Yeah,
good.
Yeah, that comes out next year in Britain.
So that's already in post-production, and
yeah, but it's essentially a story of a run that goes over and over and over again. But that is.
But the areas that you ran to for each one of those townships or what have you, it's I imagine a new story in its own way.
It's not necessarily, because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, what are you doing here?" It wasn't like they all sort of came out and waved it and whatever. I think it'll be. It'll be the story that they put it on television during Sport Relief week or month, and then they raise more money.
I was hoping that a Forrest Gump thing might happen, where people would run with you.
Well, some people did come, but Forrest Gump. I was trying to avoid the Forrest Gump thing because he thought life was a box of chocolates, and I don't think it necessarily is.
Clearly don't.
I think that's Republican thinking. And he didn't know why he was running. I didn't know why I was running. Then he stopped running, and I knew why I was running. I was running for Sport Relief, raise money, and all these other things. So, but it was a great adventure. It's like Lord of the Rings done for charity. As if Frodo went around there and Sauron said, "Yeah, come over. We'll get a lot of the guys out, a lot of the orcs to cheer you on." And
that actually makes more sense when you say it's for charity instead of that.
It would be a different gig. It would be the other one where he puts another ring, in, just any old ring, into Mount Doom, just for charity. And it's really cheered on by orcs and wargs and things, and I'm losing everyone.
So you raised £250,000, or $750 billion, and personal experience as unparalleled, obviously, I can only imagine. Now, are you a runner for life, do you feel, or are you pretty much done with it? You got out of your system?
No, I'd like to keep that going.
When did you complete the 51st day?
On the 15th of September.
And how much have you run since then at Big?
I've run 1 marathon and 3 half marathons. I'm thinking of going home and doing a night run now. Because this is a weird thing, it gets so hot in LA. I thought, I haven't run through that heat, but you can run through that heat.
It's the middle of October, you should be all right.
Well, middle of October is like middle of Mount Doom in Britain. We don't get, what's the temperature up at 28 degrees centigrade?
Yeah.
Which is 1 billion degrees Fahrenheit.
Can you throw up a tweet 5 from that world? And let me, I have another, because I just have questions here, not any tweet 5. There's one now. The tweet 5 is just this or that. Rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So, like, do you like apples or oranges kind of thing? This comes from at Professor_D. Apples would be the first one. Stage or screen?
Screen.
Knife or fork?
Knife.
Are you sure?
What, to do what with? To stab someone or to eat penne pasta? Or
it's only funny if you elaborate. Hamburger or fried chicken?
I suppose hamburger.
Fried chicken
Because
doesn't...
if it was a grilled chicken, I'd go grilled chicken.
Yeah, see? So you don't always think like an American. Animation or comic books? Comic books a part of your youth at all?
Yes, but not as much as some people. Some people just... Mine was sort of war mags. They had this thing called war mags, which was endlessly fighting the Nazis. And
right.
Those small little ones, but yeah.
And then lastly, leather or suede?
Leather, which is not great, but yeah.
Does it breathe? From the chat room, New York actor, tweet 5. Favorite color lipstick? Well, that's not a this or that. You have to offer up 2 choices. Is there a favorite? Is there a favorite?
Color? I'd probably go pink, but it doesn't really quite work with me. But
who makes England, I guess, as a country look worse, Simon Cowell or Gordon Ramsay? It's rather judgmental.
Yeah, I don't know on that one. The people assassinations, I don't really do that. But no, I don't think they do their own things in a different way. I mean, Simon Cowell says what he thinks and is very blunt about it, and so that's all work. And Gordon Ramsay says what he thinks and swears about it. But yeah, I love when Gordon Ramsay's doing those kitchen nightmares and goes in and tries to turn kitchens around. I really like that because that's where I sort of live in my head. Just the idea of things, if they're not working, you can turn them around or make them work.
Yeah. I like things that work even in difficult circumstances. I like doing gigs even when I'm fucking dying. I'm trying to do a website and I want to to be real cutting edge. I like pushing things like that. We do merchandising on the tour, and I want to make T-shirts so that they last. Quality. All of those things resonated to me about passion for what you're doing.
Yeah, well, that thing about merchandising is interesting because people said you should do T-shirts and stuff, and I thought, so what? How do I approach this?
Right.
Can I sell many and then I get more money and I can spend that on cornflakes and holidays and helicopters? And that didn't quite resonate. But I like the Branson thing, Richard Branson, and you know, if he's getting on the Virgin Atlantic and all the stuff at Virgin, you tend to think, well, he's pushing for a quality level there.
Mm-hmm.
So and an excitement level. Well, there's a new thing, and you can press this button and this thing happens. So I like that toy aspect, that thing. You know, just stuff that T-shirts, you wash it and hopefully it stays the same.
Yeah, and also just from a very basic form of the T-shirt being a souvenir of the live event. You know, there's that aspect to it, and it should last as a souvenir, if nothing else. To finish up this particular tweet, 5, eating or running?
Running, I'd say, now.
Yeah. Now, though, you'd say that now.
Well, you see, it's weird because eating is fun, but it's got a bloody huge price. Some people eat a pig a day, and hey, I'm so skinny, and I just eat a pig a day. You know, that kind of people.
Yeah.
Who I don't think would have existed before, 5,000 years ago or 10. In the hunter-gatherer period.
You went American, by the way.
Sorry?
You went American in your accent just now when you.
Oh, did I?
When you acted out the bloke who eats pig all day.
All right. Oh yeah. Well, I often do that, and I was doing it all the time in America. And then went back to Britain and.
Because it begs the next question.
Your
best word to say with an American accent. That was one of the.
Oh, brutal.
Brutal.
Yeah, that's what Steven Soderbergh said to me when I was going to do The Riches, the drama series, and he said the TV schedules are brutal.
Brutal.
I like that. It's got a D in there.
Yeah.
Brudal.
Uh-huh.
And it's a good word. The one I hate is my bad. I can't deal with my bad.
Yeah. There was just a big announcement. Most hated phrases or whatnot. Whatever was number 1. I think my bad was number 3.
I mean, whatever I don't have such a problem with, but my bad, I don't know why it gets me so much. But brutal I really like. And no-brainer is good, although it sounds clumsy. But it's a no-brainer. It does explain what it says in it. And
yeah.
I think we started using that in Britain.
Oh, have you?
Yes.
And lastly, Bowie or U2? Probably both friends at this point, all friends.
Yes, the one I've
see, it's...
So all 3 of them.
Excellent.
Bowie, you, and 2.
Mm-hmm. Your take on Ricky Gervais? Are you guys friendly? Or would you have?
I mean, Ricky's done fantastically well. He did his first TV series and he held out for everything and it went to light speed. So he's just done amazingly well, and so good luck to him. I mean, I pushed myself in a different way. So
No, of course. I felt we saw him live here and he was pretty spectacular, and I felt that he had for certain been a fan of yours. His act seemed very influenced, as all performers ultimately are influenced by someone before them.
I don't know.
So I don't know if you've seen him do stand-up or.
Yeah, he does theme stand-ups, which I found very difficult to do. I tried to do one and I couldn't really do it, so I meander through mine. But I didn't. Glorious was Old Testament and New Testament, but I was kind of slamming things together and trying to do that.
Right.
So that wasn't my. In the end, I dumped that. That's like a themed album.
Right. Which is good.
Which they went into and then everyone stopped doing.
Right. At Elaine Ewing, eyeliner, liquid or pencil?
Liquid, I'd say, but pencil's easier to deal with screw-ups.
Yeah. There's a melting factor, too, with the lights, I imagine. Favorite Python sketch? Is there
the
one?
one about it's from season 4, and it's one where their banter's gone wrong. It's a bunch of RAF pilots, and they come in and start talking in strange slang,
right.
RAF slang, and no one understands what anyone's saying because suddenly their banter has become totally new and different. And
Right.
you actually have to see it, but it's all bunch of monkeys on the ceiling. So grab your egg and fours. Let's go and bring in the bacon. They go, what?
Yeah,
bunch of monkeys. Bunch of monkeys on the ceiling?
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
They were your first influence, I imagine, at a very young age.
Yeah, they were.
The magic that came through was the radio or records?
It was
or TV.
It was mainly the tapes, audio tapes.
Right.
Would have been records, but really audio tapes. Listening to at school. The TV was, of course, there, but I couldn't actually see it. I was at boarding schools, and often I couldn't get to see it when it was on. It was at a place where they wouldn't let you watch television. So I listened to them, and I'd learn them by endlessly listening to them and repeating them.
Yeah, there's so many great comedic minds I have found. Were raised on comedy albums ultimately.
Yeah.
Because there's something about that detachment. I remember listening to the Cosby's first album and hearing him pause, or he would do something without words and the audience would laugh, and it was up to you to figure out what the visual was.
Yeah, that with Steve Martin and stuff.
Oh, yeah. You read his book, yeah, Born Standing Up?
Yeah, I actually heard it on audio book, and it's interesting because Steve seems to do his stand-up pieces. He half does them.
Wow.
He does them at half power.
Right.
So you can sense how they played, but he doesn't overplay. He doesn't sort of get in there and go, all right, I'm going to show mode. But he does. Right. So it's really interesting to hear that, and it does. It explains a lot. What a tough relationship with his father. A father who's competing against you.
Yeah.
Which I do not have.
No. You were quite fortunate.
Well, I mean, I don't know what I hope most people don't have that. It must be a bloody nightmare to deal with.
Yeah. Cake or death? Well, that's not fair.
That's cake.
Uh-huh. Please. Platform or stiletto?
Stilettos.
Because of the look?
Yeah. And platform. See, the modern stilettos, the heels at the moment, they have platforms as well. Because the heels have gone even higher, and so there's now a platform on the front bit as well, but the stiletto there. But I found in performing, there's a certain width of heel I had to perform in, which was I got wrong on the last two shows.
Last two specials?
Yeah, last two, Sexy and... because I got a DVD of the Live at Wembley show, which is the Believe
at the end of the Believe documentary.
That comes out in November in the
That's
shops,
the one that comes out November 3rd, is it?
Yeah, I think November 6th. I think.
November 6th, and that is you at Wembley.
That's at Wembley. That's
which is what the documentary leads up to.
Yeah, that whole show there in that amazing
so
gig.
That will be seen first here in DVD form, not as a televised stand-up
Yes,
special.
I try not to. I'm not really televising stuff. I feel like if you get too well known comedically, it gets in the way of drama. I mean, I obviously am known, but I try and restrict the. I don't mind that it's not on HBO or anything. I don't really want.
No, clearly it's not because you didn't want it to be.
Well, I didn't want it to be on television. Yeah. But so it is that I didn't want it to be. But I mention the documentary's out in LA now.
Right.
And it's
called
a limited
Believe.
run, Believe, and it's on at the Sunset Lemley Theatres, and then it's in New York at the Village East Village East Cinemas from next Thursday night.
It's Sunset Laramie, isn't it?
Lemley.
Is it the Laramie?
Laramie?
It's the Laramie. It's a Simpsons reference.
All right.
You've been on The Simpsons, have you not?
I just have, yeah. I was begging to try and get on, and then I'd sort of given up. But I just love it. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had Hank Azaria here. You might want to.
Yes,
you might want to check that. Taco, hot dog, or meat pie. What? That's three choices.
Yeah, I don't know if I've never heard of any of them. They are very. We don't have hot dog. We really hardly have taco and what's the other one?
Meat pie.
Meat pie. That doesn't.
Like a shepherd's pie?
Oh, I think they're trying to bastardize what you otherwise know.
I know shepherd's pie. Do you have meat pies? Do you call them meat pies? We don't call them meat pies. They're called shepherd's pies.
Do we have something called meat pie?
Yeah, we do.
Canada, of course.
Maybe that question's asked by a Canadian.
No, so shepherd's pie, yes, would be the one that I would grab.
Shepherd's pie to block. Well, clearly we're going to need part deux. You're off to New York for the next American opening of Believe.
Yeah.
So it'll play here and there for a while.
Well, it's playing here for the end. It's only, actually, I think it's only a week. We might extend this week. I'm not sure. I think it's just this week here. It's a limited release that I've done, and Yeah, and the LA Times gave it this really nice
They
review,
certainly
which is
did.
great.
Well, it wasn't just favorable, but it was sort of that overview of this is a piece of art, but it's also a documentation of a life worth sharing. And when you get that, I think that it's easy to explain to people why they should go see it.
Yeah, I mean, it is. If they look it up on LA Times, they can find it there. But it is weird because why? Where's my ego going that I'm having a documentary done? But it was done actually because of some people saying he's a transvestite. I'm not going to go and see that guy, and so it was trying to break through that kind of somewhat glass ceiling effect that I decided to do this.
That was what the impetus for in terms of.
Yeah, that was the Greek because I said to Sarah Townsend, I said, why don't you film one of the shows? And she said, you'd rather do a documentary. And I said, I thought, well, okay, that because I had seen documentaries.
If you couldn't get through a minute of a glowing introduction at the top of this show, it would be surprising to me that you would say, yes, please document my life.
Well, I don't mind if someone else says it and I'm not in the room, but just if I'm sitting here and
yeah, but you were.
Then you ate chutney for 7 years, you lived on the moon, your brother's called Kenny, you've got 6 legs, you can act like a spider.
Your brother is Mark. My research showed this to be true. All right. So she said, I really would much rather do a documentary, and the convincing.
And I thought, well, that's good because I'd seen Billy Connolly is a well-known Scottish comedian who really influenced me. A very casual, relaxed style on stage, and he started doing documentaries, world tour of Scotland. He started touring and doing stand-up as well, and showing places in Scotland that he was passionate about, from where he came from, and it made people look at him in a different way. And I thought, well, maybe that's a good thing for me, as in my Relentless, trying to push my thing up the ladder.
Right.
You wonder quite where it stops, but I've got this whole playground of Europe and the rest of the world that no one seems to be terribly bothered about. Since I've started doing French gigs, no one in UK has gone, well, I'm going to do French gigs then.
Right.
It's just me to charge in there, and the German and the Russian ones, and hopefully Arabic and whatever. And India's ready. There's 200 million English speakers in India, so that's
number one film production country in the world.
And South Africa, got to get to South Africa. And I think I can play Eastern European countries in English because they've been learning English for 20 years now since the wall came down. I can play universities, And
so there's a sense of world
infusion.
Domination.
No, infusion like tea.
I see.
Not invasion, but infusion.
It's a slow climb.
Well, it's like it's there. Why do you climb Everest? Because it's there. Why do you go and play all these other places? Because it's there. And also, because hopefully then I can come back. And I think if there is one job for me in the world, it's to come to the Americans and say, this is what we're like in Europe and this is what we believe. And the Americans might go, oh, right, that's where the thinking is coming from. And also, that's less important in a way. It's more important to go back to Europe and say, I think this is where Americans kind of think. Because people tend to think, all of America thinks like the president.
Right.
So when Bush was in, every single person, when Reagan was in, everyone was thinking exactly that way, because that's the most thing you hear.
Yeah, that's why the rest of us were scrambling around saying, no, we don't, no, we don't, no, we don't.
Yeah. And now it's got to a place where even Canadians are probably going abroad and saying they're Americans, as opposed to Americans saying that they're Canadians.
Right.
It's totally changed. And I said, they said, do you click with Americans? And I said, I do. All the people who voted for Clinton, all the people who voted for John Kerry, all the people now who voted for Barack Obama.
Right.
That's what I click with, and probably there's a number of people who would, not click with me at all, who I could meet. But I do like the idea of going for things, trying things, pushing things.
But also you're collecting the way we would send out ships to bring back spices and whatnot. You're traveling to these other countries and bringing back.
Hopefully I bring back a sensibility, or I can say I've been there and I've talked to these people. Because
turns out they're no different than us. I would think is going to come up.
That is it. The bottom line is, even if you take someone who's totally politically different from you, and in Britain we have the Tories and they all think differently from me, but in the end there's going to be some baseline things that you can all. People do want to have families, have a decent life, to get your kids into a better, have a better education than maybe you had. How that's all done in a fair way.
As you mentioned, the American dream is actually the human dream.
Yeah. The human dream. And so to be able, and like I was born in Yemen, so I have a duty, I think, to get to know Arabic people as much as I can, or get to know an Arabic sensibility as much as I can, so I can say, I think this is what people feel. Because it's interesting, you're watching CNN and you hear someone say, I'm an analyst from here, and this is what they think, and Hamas think this, and Israel thinks this, and of course Netanyahu's going to be pushing for that. And
yeah, that's a good point, because I don't trust them on anything else, so why should I trust them on this? When they're offering up these opinions?
Well, it's not necessarily them. Sometimes they're talking to experts from overseas, and my point is purely that some people, you can hear them talking, they're just running through the ideas and see, these people will not take that. The Arabic people on the West Bank, they're not going to take that because of this. And they're not the same as the Egyptians, but you're all bunching them together and thinking they're Egyptian, but they're not Egyptian. And then the Palestinians have had a tough time, and you need to know that, and if you can talk about that in a relaxed way, I think a lot of people can say, well, that makes sense to me. And in the end, I do people, vote on feel. I am going to stand for election in Europe in 10 or 15 years, or 9 or 14 years.
And I would imagine the EU would be a big part of your platform.
It's all about Europe for me, because that's what we're about. I think as humans, we were tribes. And we used to kill each other, and then the tribes made deals and said, hey, let's not kill each other, let's kill these guys. Well, it was all about probably doing that. And then somebody was thinking, hey, why does anyone have to kill anyone? Why don't we just hang out and try and have schools and make fire and have chutney? And so that is, and in the European Union, we used to murder each other. As I said before, Alexander the Great to World War II, that's that 2,500 years of massive amounts of murder, making wonderful things, and then stopping every 50 years to say, we haven't killed anyone. Let's kill the blue people. The people with the blue hats. Are they blue? I don't know. Okay. People on just the left-hand side of my hand. Kill all of them. And we did that, and we stopped doing that. We stopped doing that from 1945, and then the whole Balkans thing fell apart. And now with the European Union, it's got to a much better place, and obviously with the peace agreement, but the European Union, they're choosing it's better to vote, like in Serbia, they voted for going with a moderate rather than the nationalists in the last election, because the moderate was saying, well, let's head towards Europe and join up with Europe, and it's more stable, there's better trade, they can travel more, a whole bunch of things which are good to come out of Europe. The UK feels it's been there for a long time, so the UK will be very negative on Europe, or generally, because there's an island mentality that goes on. We don't quite see what we're getting out of it. Aren't we helping other people? And people, when they lose their generous feel, they think, I don't really want to help other people. What have they done for me recently? That kind of thinking. And I think we've got to make it work in Europe, because it's the first continent to do that. America started in a different way. It was rolling over Native American lands, a different gig. Europe did do all the war thing. We tried it in many different ways, and this country against that one on these two against that, those three against this one, and that one joined. We did every shape or form. We did it for God. We murdered each other in the name of God. We murdered each other in the name of pure, fascism and the Soviet and whatever. And now we're doing, let's have a chat. Let's try and work it out. And if we can make it work, I think the world has a chance. I think it's that. Those are the stakes. Because we have been through all this, and people think, well, they seem to be getting on, and maybe that's the model. It has to be some model like that, some way of working. Otherwise, and all the continents eventually have to sort of get like that, and then eventually the whole world has fairness and equality for 6.5 billion people, which will probably be about 10 billion people by that point.
Yeah.
And if we don't do that, then there's going to be people still having terrorism because they feel the injustice of it, they feel there's no infrastructure, no stability. And it's just got to happen. I think we've got about 100 years. I think we've got about the end of the century before someone
won't be in next millennium, I think, as you put it.
Sorry?
Unless the change.
Yes. Yeah, we've got to get it together in about by the end of this century, because that's it. Minimum wage for the entire world. It's got to get like that.
Yeah.
There'll be no outsourcing. It'll just be how good your product is.
Well, in case anyone watching was wondering how he got to be the third most celebrated and enjoyed comedic mind
in my household
of his homeland, he just proved it in the last 10 minutes.
No, that wasn't funny though. That was my political stuff.
Now we know how you got to be number 3. You're a stitch. I can't thank you enough, first of all, and I wish you tremendous success, and I look forward to hearing more as the journey progresses and moves outwardly to other continents. I will do everything possible to somehow wrangle you back to this table, but I do want to make it crystal clear how unbelievably thrilled we were here as not just me, the whole team. for you to make this a part of your
No, it's fun to be back. How long did we...
American trip. It was only 2.5 hours.
God, it was, isn't it?
You said, how long will I be here? I won't be here for an hour, will I?
Because I got another hour in me.
Yeah. Okay, let's take some more calls.
No. We'd better go.
Thank you so very, very much. And yeah, continue your journey because the rest of us will be watching.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. For those of you, we'll see you next week with Paul F. Tompkins. And I want to thank everybody here on the crew, of course, for working so very, very hard to make this particular show as seemingly flawless as it was. Let's just take a peek out to the crew to see what they've been up to for the last 2.5 hours, shall we? What the? Why they're... What's that supposed to mean? I don't... That's weird. It seems like an homage and a tribute, but judging by my guest's reaction, I'm not sure it went over as much.
Yeah, and I was trying to work out, where is that guy?
So much work went into that.
Because it wasn't even frumpy.
No, yeah.
Because you know, you got blokes can put on dresses and get to that frumpy place, and then there's... But that was just kind of...
that was an attempt
That was kind of maternity-ish.
I wonder how long they sat there, not knowing when we were going to end the show. That's what I'm thinking. At least an hour.
I think they're furiously changing.
You know, I did. When I finally was able to get on the Tonight Show with Carson, it was such a fantasy. But it only took about 7 appearances before I needed to somehow mix it up and make it more exciting. And I got a call to do the show while I was doing a costume fitting on a movie, and I was dressed as Cupid. So I said, hey, it's Halloween night, you've asked me to do the show, can I come on as Cupid? And I'll say, isn't this weird? I thought everybody was going to wear a costume. I can't believe you guys, right? Didn't come through for me. So I said, but I want to make sure Johnny's okay with this, you know. I had such great respect for the king. And that's as close as we've come here in this country. And the word came back from Carson, and I should have known by how he phrased it. Tell Kevin if that's what he wants to do, that's fine. But to me, that was just yes. So I go out and dress as Cupid. I go, well, I thought everybody was wearing a costume. Ed was going to dress as a Clydesdale, and you were going to be in one of Doc's old jackets. And it got nice laughs for about 1.5 minutes. And then I went and did the rest of my act, as I used to do on
Standing
the couch.
up or sitting on the couch?
On the couch next to Johnny, but I'd still do Shatner or whatever impersonations I was doing. But I'm in the outfit. So then it slowly started getting worse and worse, based, you know, just the reaction of the audience. So it started to be less and less enjoyable for everyone. And by the end of it, Johnny said, all right, well, I think Kevin's learned an important lesson tonight. You can't follow the outfit. We'll be right back right after this.
You can't follow the outfit?
Can't follow the outfit.
Like the outfit was too much? So
yeah. Couldn't, yeah. So I want to thank you and congratulate you on following the outfit beautifully and threaten to fire my crew for not being able to follow the outfit. All right, so we'll see you next week. Thank you all very much. Until then, as always, get out of my face.
He's all of the rainbows, but none of the rain. He's dry, but he's an alcoholic. He's hosting this train wreck again and again. And he wears a hat. He's